What a way to start a fantastic afternoon safari, the one where the sun sets and does not rise. It is marula season and I cannot get enough of it. We're only on quarantine, and of course we've got this big magnificent bull here who's making his way up the link road. Perfect way to start the drive. Hello everybody, my name is Lauren and I do have Owen Dell on camera once again. The sun is shining very brightly, which is why I'm closing my eyes, but I think you'd much rather see this bull here. He's come up from Gowrie Dam. Something's on his forehead. Is it an insect or just a leaf? Looks like he's got one of those body jewels on. Do you see it, Owen? Is it just a leaf? What are you doing with a leaf on your head? Oh, really, marula season is so giving to us because the elephants are just genuinely happy. And I know happiness sounds very anthropomorphic, but I can assure you animals feel happiness too. So before I forget, this safari is live and interactive. So you must talk to us. Please, please do. Otherwise, we get a little bit lonely. You're welcome to ask us about what we're seeing or anything you want to know about the environment or the characters that we follow out here. Send in your questions using the hashtag WildEarth on Twitter, or if you're watching on the website, as long as you've registered, you can submit your questions under the live safari page. And kids, of course, if you're watching, I say this every day, but it's important enough to say every day. You guys really are the future generation, the ones that can make change. So you must talk to us as well, and you send in your questions via email. And the email address is kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. Such a magnificent start. Miss Lissy from Canada. My goodness, what a stark contrast to what we're having. You're ready? You got your coffee and a blanket. It must be cold right now for you guys. Of course it is. Wow, we don't have blankets or sadly no coffee, but I do have green tea with a splash of lemon, lots of fruit, and a big bull who's coming right to the car. Hello, boy. You have a leaf on your forehead. It's very pretty though. Hello. You're so handsome. Has anyone ever told you that before? Wow, this is so magnificent. Let's just watch him walk away. My goodness. That elephant had absolutely no negative body language. Just as a gentleman who's just really, really curious about what we're doing. Do we have any marillas? Sadly, I do not. But on that note, everyone, let's take a look at the weather.
Good afternoon, everybody. I am sitting at Treehouse Dam and we've got a very cute little surprise here. Not only do we have our resident bachelor herd of impalas, but we have got a little family of warthogs that are in the shade and they're sitting still for long enough that I can show them to you. So I don't even want to jinx it by talking too much about them, but how sweet to have two tiny little piglets next to Mom. And there's another one that's hiding in the distance in the shade as well. 4 warthogs to start my day with impalas. My name is Tessa. I'm going to be your guide on safari here this afternoon. Behind the camera is Gert. And we are just enjoying a little bit of the scenery. There's a beautiful breeze cooling us down. It is very hot in the sun. And we figured a little bit of dam hopping is in order, considering that it's so nice and hot today. So I am going to be sitting here for quite a while, I can assure you. We will try and find some shade for ourselves. because I think we are going to have quite a few animals coming down here, especially within the next half hour or so, because it is so nice and hot. But what I do want to point out is the warthog family is looking very nice and relaxed, and they're moving freely between the little fresh shoots of grass, staying very close to mum. But they don't necessarily reflect what is actually happening here. If you have a look at the impalas, can you see that those impalas are all facing one direction, or those two anyway, and the other two are actually just behind the dam wall, and the lion tracks from the lines that Lauren had this morning, they head to the drainage line, which is on the left hand side of this dam. And those impalas can smell the lions. They have been so jumpy the entire time that we have been here. In fact, just now they actually had a little bit of an alarming something that got their attention, and they actually jumped and started running out of the way, and now they've come back and calmed down a little bit. So they can definitely smell the lions because the wind is coming from the drainage line in towards the dam. So as much as the warthogs have been looking very relaxed, the impalas can definitely tell that there have been lions here. Mrs. Reed's class, thank you so much for your question. You're all in year 2. So we have a lot of different animals that live here. I think I'm going to answer it in general as Juma Private Game Reserve and not as Treehouse Dam. But you'll find everything from snakes, lizards, frogs, monitors, all sorts of small reptiles and amphibians, right the way through butterflies, different insects, spiders, scorpions, and all the way up to the bird species. So things like oxpeckers, kingfishers, some of the eagles and raptors, vultures, and then all the way through to mammals, and that ranges from some of the smallest mammals like a steenbok right the way up to the predators, lions, leopards, cheetahs, wild dogs, hyenas, buffaloes, rhinos, and elephants, the 3 of the biggest. So we definitely have lots of different animals that live in this area. The most common animals we see here at Treehouse Dam are these bachelor herds of impalas, some elephants that move through, and a little warthog family. And actually, if you look closely at the warthog on the left, it's actually got a few oxpeckers on it at the moment. There's 2 species in one go. So that oxpecker is going to be looking for parasites on that warthog's skin. And warthogs actually have very thick skin. They also have very thick hairs to protect them. And ticks favor warthogs in particular because there are a few more creases in a warthog's skin. It is easier for them to find places to get access to blood in all of the creases of the legs, underneath the tail, in the folds of the ears, around the eyes and the lips, even up the nostrils. You'll see ticks, and that oxpecker is looking for ticks because it feeds on blood. How cute is that with the little baby and the one impala together? Size difference. So I'm sure that these warthogs and impalas are going to be here for a while. I am going to keep watching the situation because the impalas are so alert. I don't know where the lions are, but I think they might be close by. Wish me luck.
We're just sitting watching this Ellie bull. He's just unbelievably relaxed, strolling across Quarantine Hour open area, basically just in search of marulas. He's on a marula mission. But we're parked in the shade, which is nice for us, and just giving him all the distance he needs. So we're just going to sit here for a moment or two and just appreciate the beauty in front of us. Isn't it just so gorgeous? I think we're going to stick with this boy a little bit longer.
So we've got something very special happening here. It seems like as the sun is going behind the clouds and it's cooling off, our young warthogs have got this explosion of energy. And they're pushing each other around. They're even pushing the adults around occasionally, and then just doing donuts in the sand, rubbing themselves all over and running so quickly we're struggling to keep up. Let's just watch this for a little bit and see what happens. This is adorable. So it seems like every few seconds they go back to playing, and then in between they pretend that they're feeding a little bit, and then they go back to playing again. Perfect miniature version of the adults. Oh, look at that. That's quite a sweet comparison. You can see the one at the back is the mother. You can see her teats. Right, so normally warthogs will have anywhere from 2 to 3 little ones at a time. But that being said, I have seen more than that. I've seen 4, 5, 6 with some sows. But normally the average is 2 or 3 at a time. And warthogs can actually live quite long. They can actually live up to around 18 years old. And they will have quite a lot of different litters in that time. So you can imagine they become very experienced parents. And when little ones have got this much energy, it's easy to see why they need to be more experienced to keep them safe. Seems like one of the piglets is definitely more attached or more nervous, possibly. So it stays closer to the parents than the other one. The other one is quite adventurous and seems to enjoy the impalas quite a bit. Oh, I'm hoping that we get to see them playing again. That was adorable. So remember, any young animals, especially this kind of age, these are still very young. Learning comes through playing. Yes, you watch the adults, yes, you mimic what they do, but when you can play, you can learn a lot more, a lot faster. So it's definitely fun to watch how they are learning at this stage. So going from some warthogs, which have some tusks of their own, let's head over to JP. It sounds like he has got a tusker.
Welcome back to Eco Training Pridelands, and we've got something with a way bigger tusk than a warthog. We've got his little weenie, one of the most beautiful and largest elephants in the Balulian and Pridelands. At the moment, he's in full must, and if you look at the hind part of his legs, you'll see actually it's soaked with urine. And that's because he's constantly dribbling urine when he's in this state of must. So my name is JP LaRue, and behind the camera we've got Davy. So what we did this afternoon is we started from the last point where we know that we were seen, and then from there started working the blocks around that area until we had a track that exited that block so that we could determine the direction. And as we tracked him, we also started noticing that he's tracking actually a group of females, and he's looking for a potential mate that might be an estrus. And every now and then you'll actually notice how he stops and smells and he's pretty much on the trail of the tracks that we see underneath his feet. But he just uses a very different mechanism of tracking, and that's the means of scent. We're just going to continue following him. Hopefully we'll be able to get to one of the junction roads, which will enable us to just cut in front of him, but we can get a nice view from the front view as well. While he's moving, I just want to give him a lot of distance, that we're not driving directly behind him, but he doesn't feel pressured. In general, as I said a few times, he's a very relaxed elephant, but even very relaxed elephants can have bad days too, just like humans. And generally, when you do drive behind them, they sometimes feel a little bit threatened because something is following them, and it's not directly into the front of their view. However, if they can see you, they tend to be slightly more happy with you from the front, and often pass very close towards vehicles as well. Let's see, he's changing direction, or possibly eyes on spots. And welcome to the show. We're just going to quickly position the vehicle over here, and we can just get a bit of a better view of him. Let's see what he's going to get up to. Maybe he's going to break on the marilla tree. Maybe he wants a bite. Watch that. Wow. That's amazing. That's just amazing how strong they are. And let's see if he's going to eat or just simply break when he's been the tree. Quite often you see them breaking stuff and then having a small little bite and then moving on. So there's a possibility that I can reposition and just have him in the front of us. I'm just going to quickly move around, because generally if they move into a specific direction, they keep on moving in that direction. I just want to see if I can cut through here and then maybe get a better view. If you are going to off-road, always be very careful of things like small mammals and also branches lying in front of you. Always best is to put your vehicle into low range, where it creates minimum traction, and that you don't damage your terrain unnecessarily. So if you have to drive over something, don't drive over indigenous plants that are endangered. Always just rather try and stick to the grasses. I'm just going to stop over here and let's see what he's going to get up to. It's amazing, you can see how big those tusks is. And you'll notice that the left tusk is slightly shorter. So most likely is a left tusk orientated elephant. Just like us, we are either left or right orientated. You can also see how sharp the tips of those tusks is. If we do focus underneath the belly where the penile sheath is, you'll actually notice how he's dribbling urine. As mentioned a few times, these elephants can dribble up to 400 liters of urine when they're in full must. I'm just going to see what we can do. I'm just going to reverse out here and then go back onto our road and see if we can follow him. But very curious to actually wonder how much he is weighing. I just want to get another vehicle in to have a quick view of the elephant, and then we're gonna maybe cycle between one or two more vehicles, and then we'll go back into the sighting and have another look. Okay, that's not going to work. Thank you, Darby. Darby is being my tracker here this afternoon, and he's pointing out potential logs in front of us. Well, in the meanwhile, let's go and see what Lauren is up to. It sounds like she's also located on an elephant.
His tusks may not be as big, but my goodness, his bull is magnificent. With every summer, with every marula season, I've always encountered a bull that I just recognize time and time again and feel quite an attachment for. They just have the most wonderful gentleman energy. And of course, you still have to be careful of elephants, no matter their size or sex. But he obviously walked all the way from Gowrie Dam straight to our car. And I kept an eye on him, and he just has the most easygoing nature about him. His body language is so relaxed right now. And he's just strolling. I think he's going to this exact tree, the tree that we had this morning and last night, where all the marulas are following. It's just, it's amazing. I'm not able to run on quarantine anymore. Charlie, elephants are not territorial, I'm afraid. They're not territorial at all. They focus more on herd life. Naturally, the bulls do get kicked out. We know that. Then they go on to live a much more nomadic life, other than when they're following the herd looking for females or in the company of younger bulls. But they're not territorial. They migrate great distances. They follow the roots that are ingrained within them, that has actually come from the matriarch. Even within the bulls, it stems from their matriarch, because even when they get older and they leave the herd, those migration sort of patterns, if you like, remain within them, and it ultimately has come from their matriarch. And they will move to area regarding water, especially areas that will provide water in dry season when it does get tough. Okay, we've had some very good dry seasons recently, but generally speaking, it does get tough. And also areas where food is just plentiful at different times of the year. So they're not territorial, which means they don't show any signs of social dominance or behavior that would relate to acting dominant over an area. It's very exhausting and energetically expensive to be territorial. You have to actively defend your territory. Every animal has a home range, including those that are territorial. So this elephant's got a home range for sure. It's a big one. But those that are territorial, you're claiming a patch of land as yours, and it's called social dominance. And in order to do that, you've got to actively defend it. You've got to make sure everyone knows it's yours, and you've also got to keep intruders out. So whether that's by calling, or scent marking, or fighting, it takes up a lot of energy. And for an elephant's lifestyle, that wouldn't fit in. And therefore, they're not territorial, Charlie. Okay, we are going to try and keep up with this boy a little bit longer.
Okay, so we are still at Treehouse Dam, and it looks as though the warthog family has become very nervous very quickly. So I'm not sure if, as they went onto the ridge on the edge of the dam, if they maybe caught wind of those lions. And you can see the impalas are still looking very nervous. They have not gone back to feeding. None of them have had a drink. They are just staring around, trying to stay safe next to the waterhole. So what I do want to do is just spend a little bit of time listening in case we can hear any alarm calls or anything like that. But at the same time, there are some beautiful birds calling at the moment. Woodland kingfishers, chagras, all sorts of birds. So while we are watching and just gathering more information, let's have a listen. So I'm not hearing any signs that would indicate that maybe the lions are closer than we think. I think the lions are sleeping flat somewhere in the drainage line, keeping cool, but the wind is just what's making everybody nervous. But there are some stunning bird calls around at the moment, and I think we are going to see more activity here as the afternoon wears on. So I'm going to spend a little bit more time here, and hopefully some elephants might come down.
Welcome back to Eco Training Pridelands. We've been watching his little weenie as he was actually mud wallowing and bathing himself. He's unfortunately now moving off. As you'll notice that he's got incredibly big tusks. It's not the biggest tusks I've actually seen. I've seen a few bigger sizes than that in the past. Quite often where the elephant will actually rest its head in the upright position and its tusks on the ground. One of the things that I always find interesting about these big tusked elephants is that they often will put their trunk over their tusk when they're walking and almost resting it in a manner like almost when they are moving, just to not worry about that unnecessary weight hanging around and moving everywhere. It's just curious behavior. I've never really known why they do it. We're just going to see if we can reposition and then follow up on him again, because he's now moving off, and I would like to actually try and see if we can stick with him a little bit longer. With elephants, it's like his weenie, which has in the prime of their life, they can also wander incredibly big distances. And sometimes they can wander up to over 1,000 square kilometers or even more. Good afternoon, Raindrop, and welcome to the show. I'm just focusing on reversing here, but I'm going to answer you. And I actually don't know how many big tuskers is left. It will be quite an interesting thing to see if there is a study that's been done on it. However, I do know that reserves such as the Kruger National Park keep records of incredibly big tusked elephants or upcoming big tuskers. And quite often what they've done is they've actually named these elephants in honor of field rangers that have served many years in the Kruger National Park. And I've been privileged in the past to work with two of those field rangers. One of them was named Aaron, and Aaron used to have a nickname of Tanda Mamba, the one that loves the Mamba. And then that specific elephant got the nickname of Tanda Mamba in honor of the service that Aaron provided to the South African National Parks. Another one is a close friend of mine, his dad. He's got several years as a field ranger and trails ranger in the Kruger National Park, and he used to like shorts with pockets. And in Shangaan, if I remember correctly, the name is Shipochobocho or something like that. And that specific elephant is named after his habit of wearing shorts or trousers with many pockets. This is Alwini, just directly to our 2 o'clock of a vehicle, still moving. I don't know how much longer we'll be able to stay with him, as this area over here sometimes is quite tricky with signal, but we're going to try our very best in trying to keep up with him and keep with him as long as possible. So far it's only 2 vehicles that's in the sighting, and quite often we'll join up to a maximum of 3, and then if we go beyond that point, we'll just start rotating and allow the next vehicle to come in, and one of us will make our way out. But in the meanwhile, let's go and see what the rest of the team is up to while we're trying to keep visual of him as it is now moving through the thick vegetation.
Okay, so our warthog family has unfortunately decided to leave, but we're actually just admiring a little bit of the clouds as they are building up. I'm wondering if we might have some rain later this evening. We have had quite a lot of bird activity around the dam this afternoon, and I'm very happy to say we can actually see butterflies flying over every now and then as well. But at the moment it seems like majority of what we have here is still our little bachelor herd of impalas. And they are all still looking quite nervous. I've only seen one put its head down to feed in the entire time that I've been here. And I think the smell of the lions is just too strong at the moment. So they are very nervous. And I think that's also what caused the warthog family to leave. They changed positions up onto the road on the other side of the dam, and all of a sudden they must have picked up the scent and they bolted in the opposite direction. So I wouldn't be surprised if the lions are lying flat sleeping somewhere in this drainage line. It's very interesting to see how the impala dynamics are going to change over the next few months. Lauren, from what we can tell, yes, we actually tracked the Nkuhuma Pride back from Triple M along Gowrie Main, back to where the cub was seen on his own, and then they all went south together. That's what we can tell from the tracks. We haven't officially seen him with the pride so that we can count all 7 cubs, but that is what the tracks showed, and the tracks are our puzzle that we put the pieces together, and that all comes down to interpretation. But from what we can tell, yes, he has joined up with the rest of the pride. They came back for him, and then they moved off quite far south, I think. I'm hoping that we get to see them at some point though, sometime in the very near future, so that we can definitely confirm that and show you some playful cubs. But for now, it seems like they are happily relaxing somewhere in the south. I know that the lions found this morning, there were only 3 of them that Lauren could see, were very flat, and they were all adult. George, I have not heard that question in a while. Thank you for bringing that back to the front of my brain. Impalas are called the McDonald's of the bush by some people, and that's a combination of things. You can see with that impala walking away, have a look at the markings on the tail. Impalas have a set of stripes, one on each rump, one on each side, and then one straight down the tail. And it makes what looks like an M on the bum. It is quite rounded as well, which means it does look a little bit like a McDonald's logo. There you can see it quite nicely. But it is also because there are so many of them, they are considered jokingly as fast food. There are so many, it's as though you're going to a McDonald's drive-through, and they are pretty fast and a fairly easy meal for every predator. Impalas are the most predated on animals by the most diverse predators. So, supposedly an easy meal. That being said, impalas are actually quite hard to catch, but you can see why the correlation came in somewhere along the line. So I'm really hoping that we have some elephants that come down to the dam this afternoon, now that it is getting nice and hot. I'm going to spend just 2 more minutes here. I haven't heard any signs yet, but maybe sometime soon. But speaking of, I'm hoping I get to see mine. It sounds like Lauren is still with hers, so let's head over to her.
And he ended up exactly where I predicted, everybody. We need a name for this marula, this female marula. Last night, Kat and I sat and watched the marulas fall. We had a bull here this morning. I don't know if it's the same bull. And now another bull back again, loving this marula. That's why we can't run on quarantine now. And it's very iconic, this tree. And just talking earlier about them sort of mind mapping out routes. Coming to this tree won't be a coincidence. It won't be stumbled upon. Oh, cool, a nice marula. No, 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 no. This will be mapped in their mind. Where shall we go to get the best marulas? Haha, I know. White mane, yes I have. They love a good shake to get the marulas to fall when there's none on the ground. Luckily, there are lots on the ground right now. But yes, I have. I've seen it quite a few times already. It's quite magnificent seeing a big beast like this shake a tree. You know, there's something quite spectacular about that they've learned to give it a shake. It needs a shake, and when you shake it, it'll drop. These animals know what they're doing. Yes, I have. They do it in two ways. Sometimes they stand on their hind legs, reach up with their front legs and sort of shake the branches with their trunk, or they just headbutt the actual trunk of the tree and give it a really, really good shake. I knew he was coming here. And the drunk elephant theory is, of course, completely false. This elephant, unfortunately, is not going to get drunk. It was a horrible study where they actually darted the elephants, and that's where the video footage came about of the elephant looking drunk, but it was almost tranquilized. So yes, it was falling around, but it absolutely was not drunk from marulas, that's for sure. And there's multiple reasons for this, but you do not find inebriated pachyderms running around. Imagine if you did, my goodness, it would be absolute chaos. They do absolutely love marulas, but it's not a case that they're going to get drunk from eating them, that's for sure. They eat a lot of them though. But one, they don't leave. I mean, the marula is not on the ground long enough to start fermenting. I mean, that is one thing. Fermentation takes time, especially of fruit. You're not going to find the marulas on the ground really for that long enough. And even if you do find them on the ground, the elephant won't eat them if they started to rot. They're really fussy. If you actually watch him and watch the ones he picks up, he's fussy. And you'll notice that obviously the vehicles drive over some marulas naturally. We can't help it. He won't pick up the squished ones. So even if he did eat all the rotten fruit, which they don't, even if he did, an elephant like this guy would need well over 1,400 marula fruits to even start having enough ethanol in them to feel remotely drunk. So it's been completely debunked. It just doesn't work, that theory. I think we're going to try and stay with this boy until he leaves. It's been so wonderful so far.
Okay, so I have just left Treehouse Dam, and I'm taking a little bit of a bumble along some of the drainage lines just to see if I can pick up on any of those lion tracks, because they were headed in this direction from what it looked like, coming up Philemon's cut line towards Philemon's dip. So I'm thinking they're relaxing somewhere quite close to the shade. But what I'm also really hoping for is, because we saw so many lovely butterflies around the dam but couldn't get one to sit still, I'm hoping to find you some nice butterflies this afternoon. I think it is a very good afternoon for that. Hopefully, if we find a few flowers, we might get a few that are sitting still. It is also quite a relief to see that there are a lot more birds that are sitting still and calling this afternoon. So I'm also going to try and find you as many birds as I can. Maybe we should do a bird call challenge just now. That might be a lot of fun. See if we know some of the bird calls. I am seeing quite a lot of hyena tracks. It's as though they've been using this little road as a highway. I'm not seeing any lion tracks coming down, so I think the lions have crossed over into that drainage line. So as I get closer to the drainage line, I'm going to stop for a little bit and just have a listen if there are any birds calling. That might give us an idea. Actually, I might stop here in the shade. That's a good idea. At a little junction with Pangolin Track, there are some nice pan systems along here. I'm wondering if the lions might have come down this way. Let's have a little bit of a listen. Maybe we'll get lucky.
Back to hoovering. The hoover maneuver. I wonder how many marulas he's consumed already today. I think it'll be a lot. Look how many he's holding in his trunk at one time. Oh, there we go. See him holding them all. Peter Betza, I'm going to come to your question in just a moment, but I don't want to take my eyes off the Ellie. This is incredible. Well, that's what the prehensile tips are for. You're a hungry boy, a hungry Horace, as we would say in Scotland. Oh, that was so magical there. Peter, it's to stop the elephants destroying them. You see these prehensile tips that he was using to pick up the marulas? They can also sort of use that to pick off bark if it's already been pulled a little bit with their tusks. And they can either debark it or ring bark it. So the marulas put there by Rexon and team to try and stop them doing that. They can't quite get those tips at the end of the trunk around it to pull, because you can't have every single marula here destroyed, and it does kill the marula if it completely strips away all that important tissue. Oh, there he is. I was like, where are you? Now I see you on the knob thorn. We hear you. And there's two competing. I don't see the other one though.
From Solomon's Catalog.
Oh my goodness. What a loud little bunny. Raindrop, you're saying the elephant's using his trunk like a squirrel uses his teeth. Indeed he is, a little storage sack that he pours into his mouth. I mean, the trunk is an incredible organ. It's a fusion of the nose and the upper lip, really. So powerful with a number of different functions. And a storage space for marula fruits is exactly one of those functions. He's getting into every last nook and cranny. I see the other one now, Owen, right there. Do you see him? These are the two kingfishers that are calling just on that branch there. Now I see you. Yeah, just on the marula, on that first low-hanging branch, just sitting there. Fiona D, marulas are very high in vitamin C. 4 times that of an orange. But not only that, the actual nut inside that I am not entirely sure elephants are digesting or getting any benefit. Well, they're not digesting, we know that, but getting any benefit from because we see it in their dung. So I don't actually know what part is benefiting the elephants. It mostly goes unprocessed. I honestly think they enjoy the taste. More than anything, they love the taste, a little bit of sugar. They probably do absorb some of the vitamin C. But in the protein-rich nut, not only lies protein, but contains an oil. And it's very rich in the healthy omegas to really help sort of hydrate and nourish an animal. So it's got lots of nutritional qualities, but as to what is exactly the benefit of the elephant, I don't know. I honestly think they just love the taste. It will benefit them on some level, but I mean, when you do look at a dung pile, it's mostly full of marulas these days that have gone mostly undigested. They probably just get some sugars, get a little bit of vitamin C, maybe some macronutrients. I think they just love them. But marulas as a fruit are incredibly, incredibly nutritious, from the flesh to the nut and to the oil that's inside the nut. Look at all those red stars, zinnias. They're gorgeous flowers. Almost like poppies, but not. They remind me of poppies. He's almost cleared all of those marulas, and I'm not joking. Oh, another one just fell. You better get that one, boy. Well, we definitely can't go anywhere right now, but you guys are going to head over to Tessa.
Oh, maybe they had a baby warthog.
Yeah, this is also true.
Okay, my tracking has paid off, everybody. So we noticed the tracks that went really slowly up towards Pangolin Track on Weaver's Nest from Treehouse Dam. Very many names being thrown in the mix here. But we have tracked them all the way down to Twin Dams Road, just south of one of my favorite pans on the entire property called Chela Pan. And this lioness has heard something in the drainage line. And I'm not sure what it is. We haven't heard anything. We can't smell like she can. We can't hear like she can. But definitely something has caught her attention. Have a look at that. Let's just have a listen in case we can hear anything in the drainage line. I've got the hiccups, I'm so sorry. I think I got too excited when I found the lines. Okay, so I'm not hearing anything in particular down in the drainage line, but perhaps she's smelling something as well. The wind is blowing quite hard. And it looks like we've got, so far, 3 individuals here. A lioness who's got her head up at the moment, a young male who's lying flat in the road, and then one more that is lying very, very sleepily and flat in the grass to my right. And I'm not sure yet whether this is a male or female. I'm going to have to duck out of the way a little bit here, doing some yoga poses. Lying flat in the grass here, so I'm not sure if this is a male or a female. But very, very sleepy. It seems it's just the young lioness that is looking quite alert. She's definitely hearing something. Have a look at that hat. She's kind of turning her attention slowly between us and towards the drainage line. But she's quite fixed on one position, and because we are so close to one of the main junctions called Spaghetti Junction, it's a convergence of 2 different drainage lines, 3 different roads, and probably one of the wider sections of the Mulawati. Oh, she is beautiful. Hello, girl. Where are you going? Patricia, I am as excited as you. I'm so happy that we found them. I would be very interested to see, now that this lioness is moving, she looks like the oldest here. I would be very interested to see now that she's going if the others follow, and then hopefully we'll be able to give that a head count. I'm actually not 100% sure if these are the same lines that Lauren saw this morning. The tracks do look like they come from that area. But because they were so flat in the grass, there wasn't a very good view of them. Hello, girl. Okay, you're going to come around the back and probably go to the bathroom behind us. And we have got the sub-adult male slowly waking up in the road as well. She's actually just walking off behind us at the moment, so I just want to watch her out the corner of my eye while we watch the young male, because I'm sure he will follow. Yeah, she's just standing and staring towards the drainage line. I think they are hungry, and so she's probably hearing something she perceives as food. And I'm not surprised about that at all where we are. Okay, so what I do want to do is actually just try and... Yeah, she's moving again. Wait, I don't want to move yet. Okay, she comes back. Nope, she is moving. Okay. A little bit of backwards and forwards going on here, everybody, but I did want to follow her because she is moving a little bit, and it would be nice for us to see her walking and moving around.
Compared to the other lambs now, there's such a size difference. He was standing right next to the other newborn, and you could really see the size. Ah, so lovely. We're just gonna sit here for a moment and just enjoy this.
Stations located on the E3.
Ethan is so sweet. It's only the second newborn I've seen over the last couple of days.
Got quite a cute little scene happening here at the moment. It looks like the sub-adult male has gotten up and joined the other one in the grass. They're having a little bit of a cuddle session, actually. The lioness has turned around and returned back to her original position. She is flat sleeping in the grass. And so for now, we're just appreciating these two that are cuddling so nicely. So if you listen carefully, you'll note that there are no birds alarm calling. So the animals, there's no alarm calls indicating that the lions are here. So everybody's nice and relaxed. Mrs. Reed's class, you want to know what you call a mommy lion. She's just known as a lioness. There is no specific word for a lioness that has become a mom, but there are some of the fiercest moms around, so I'm sure there's a good few verbs and adjectives we could use to describe them. Oh, hello, boy. What did you hear? Also smelling something on the wind. I'm wondering if they can't smell some of the other lions. So this is actually the young male. If you have a look at his lip very closely, this is the young male that's got a little bit torn out of his lip right in the middle. As the black patch comes down from his nose, you can see a little bit of his lip has been taken off. And if I'm not mistaken, he's part of the Nkuhuma pride that has broken away. But I would love some confirmation on that. If anyone could give me a confirmation, that would be delightful. But I think I remember him as being part of the Nkuhumas. So this might be the part of the pride that broke away quite a while back, because there should be 5 sub-adult males in the Nkuhuma pride in total. And there are only 3 with the other group of them. So it would make sense that these are the other 2 with one of the older lionesses. Oh, back to sleep with a big sigh. And he's got his paw on the other one. It's quite sweet. So I am loving the fact that with that paw resting on the other one, you can actually see the toe pads are separating a little bit because the lion is nice and relaxed. You can see how the toes are separated, so you can actually see a little bit of the underside of the pad, but you can also see the sheath where the claws come out. And this is going to be this young male's most powerful tool at some point, because he doesn't want to get himself close enough in a fight to have his face injured. He'd rather smack with a paw. Ethan, it depends if the entire pride gets back together or not. So if it's just these 3, which it seems to be, they could quite easily feed on something like an impala and be happy, or even a big warthog, and they would be fine with that. I'm sure preferably they would like something a little bit bigger, maybe something like a young kudu or a big nyala. But because it's only the 3 of them, they would actually be fine with something about the size of an impala. If, however, the entire pride got back together, they would need something like a buffalo to feed all of them, because there are so many altogether. Just the ones that we saw the other day, there were 8. You add these 3, that's 11, and that's without the new little cubs, 7 cubs, 3 other lionesses, and both of the avokas. So they would need at least a buffalo or 2. But these 3 on their own, something smaller would be fine. You probably found they do struggle a little bit more to hunt in this particular group, because it looks like only 1 lioness and then 2 sub-adults. And they won't be as experienced at hunting as what she is. And so she would have to do majority of the hunting and the decision making. And these two would still be practicing and learning, so it is going to take them a little while before they're actually very good at hunting. But you can imagine they've already had quite a tough life, and these two are going to have to be able to hunt completely on their own in the very near future, because they are going to be pushed out of the pride. This is the life of a male lion. Very few of them actually survive to the age where they can mate and take over a pride, because when they get old enough, which is pretty soon because their manes are developing nicely and they're getting big in body size, usually at around 2.5, 3 years old, depending on the pride, they will be moved off, because the evoker males are not going to want any of that competition. And also it's instinct to get new bloodlines in instead of having crossbreeding between brothers and sisters and sons and mothers, things like that. So you don't want any inbreeding. Sorry, that's the word I was looking for, inbreeding. My brain had a bit of a hiccup. And so they're going to have to be able to hunt completely on their own for years. So you're going to, have to watch these young males at some point move off, hunt on their own, be successful in territories completely taken over by dominant males. And so this is a skill they're going to have to learn to master fairly quickly. The lioness that they're with is one of the older ones, so she is pretty experienced, which means they can do well learning to hunt from her. But it is more challenging if it's only her, as opposed to her with other lionesses. So I'm going to try and reposition a little bit, see if we can see their faces possibly. It is quite difficult with the long grass. But while I do that, I'm going to send you over to Lauren on a bumble.
We're now on our bumble to the northeast corner. I want to see if I can just see any signs of Tlalamba. We're trying every day just to drive the roads, see any tracks, no, then leave again. She's getting very mobile with the cubs. She was spotted apparently yesterday morning as well, quite late, long after our drive had ended. So she's really mobile with them. She was spotted with the cubs, sorry. So I'm just going to scratch around that area, and then naturally a little bit later I will be at my family's house. So Cedric called it, "Should we go and visit your family?" I said, "Oh, okay. Let's do it." I really want to just try and just get a few more interactions before I go. Just see, we've not seen Sutu yet. Where's Sutu? And we've not seen Intima. We've seen Corky really, really briefly. Is she denning? Where is she? Just try and see if I can piece all of this together. So that is my rough outline of a plan. Still really, really strong. I don't know when it's going to die down. I'm hoping I can get to blindfold Owen before I go. But I don't know. The wind is just not letting up. I'm actually not sure what they're guesstimating these cubs at as from when they were first found, but they're definitely over the 16-week mark, 100%. They're older, they're mobile. 100% they're getting older, but I don't know what they're actually putting them at now. I wasn't around when they were first sort of found. But I mean, Javi and I had them in that drainage line just at the start of November, and we could hear them crying, and we really wanted a visual of them, because when you have the visual you can confirm age immediately. There's a protocol here. So for example, with Tiani's cubs in the West, there are sort of WhatsApp groups and communication channels where you're informed at what stage the cubs are at. Okay guys, the cubs are at 8 weeks. For example, I got an update on Shadulu's den. They're calling it Shadulu's lair, and it's still very much locked off. You're not allowed to utilize that area of Simbambili Dam. If you do see Shadulu there, you can view her from long distance. So you get updates on what stage the cubs are at. But because, well, yes, because of other things, Davi and I did not stay at the den that day, which meant we were losing a lot of knowledge. We could hear them. We know there are cubs. We thought we heard 2, but then was it 1? You're just going by audio. And we didn't know what age they were. So that means we lost a lot of information. And then once, for example, in the West, once the cubs get to 12 weeks, they open it up. So they say, okay, the cubs are 12 weeks now. They're behaving very habituated with the vehicles. If you do see the cubs without mum, you can stay and you can do this. And then you get the update on spotlighting. Can't spotlight, and then slowly, once cubs get older, okay, you can be with them after dark. So there's sort of like a protocol here based on the age of the cubs. But sadly, we sort of lost that little piece of info. But yesterday morning, she was only seen with 1 cub, so that's another reason I just want to follow up. That's quite normal. Sorry, FC, I'll need you to repeat that question from Abigail. I think she's using the same drainage system, Abigail, but I don't think the cubs are so much den bound anymore. They're moving to kill sites. She's taking them to kill sites. She's bringing them back again. She'll probably stash them somewhere if the weather turns really bad. But I don't think they're so den bound anymore. They're not at that stage, and therefore I think she's still using that sort of Nyala drainage system, if you like. It's quite extensive, the Gwori Pan one, but I don't think she's still using the same den site. No, I think we're past that stage. But I think she's keeping them in a really small area. She's not traveling, for example, all the way to Treehouse Dam with them just yet. I think she's got a specific area. Rexon did see her moving all the way through quarantine with them, which was quite fascinating, but she seems to have gravitated back to the northeastern corner. So in answer to your question, same area, but not exactly the same specific den site, if you like. Okay, that's us in the east now. We made it, so we're slowly going to scratch around and see what we can find. We are going to stop here and just give you some lovely views of the Impala. Look at these ones. Sitting in the shade. It's okay, we just want to say hi. Oh, they don't stay relaxed for long, I'm afraid. They can't afford to. But we are going to sit here for a moment or two and enjoy them. It's always so peaceful just to stop and pay attention to the impalas.
So we've actually repositioned a little bit just to have a look at this female and see if we can get a few more characteristics on her. She is flat sleeping, and she really seems to just be enjoying the breeze this afternoon, which I can 100% understand. It is so hot today. You can see she's got some flies bothering her. Have a look at that fly that's crawling very close to her eye. So it must be quite frustrating for them to get a decent nap in when there are flies all over your face. So the flies are actually attracted to the little bit of moisture around the eyes, the nostrils, the mouth, but also any wounds or any dirt on the skin or the hair as well. She has got a few ants and things crawling on her as well, but those actually won't bother her as much. Paul, I'm so happy that you find it a pleasure to see lions. I definitely do as well, and it's always so rewarding to see all of the different ones. Be able to catch up with them and just catch up on some of the movements. And what's exciting for me is I haven't seen these three in this stint until now. I think the last time I saw some of these was maybe in September. So that is quite exciting for me, because it's good for me to be able to catch up with all the different lions. But she is looking really nice and relaxed. So the other two are still very, very flat in the grass. We haven't seen or heard any movement from them yet. Mrs. Reed's class, you want to know how they give food to their babies. So the first part of a lion cub's life is actually exclusively only drinking milk. So what she'll have to do is when she has cubs, she'll have to hide them in different den sites, and she'll move them every few weeks to a few months depending, because she doesn't want to leave them in one spot for too long. And so what she'll do is she'll start by only feeding them milk. So she'll actually suckle them directly with her own mammary glands for the first few months. Only when the lion cubs are a little bit older, maybe 2 to 3 months old, will they start moving around a bit more, maybe be introduced to some of the other lionesses of the pride. And then they'll actually all help to look after the cubs. And still at this stage, majority of the diet will be milk. From around 3 months old, usually, you might see them starting to tag along to some carcasses, nibbling on some meat. And from there, they will start transitioning over to meat only. That does take a good few months though, and you can imagine it's quite a dangerous process. So she needs to make sure that her cubs are safe. So what she will do is she will not bring a carcass to them. If she manages to kill something, or the pride manages to kill something, she will go and fetch her cubs and bring them to the carcass and then leave again once they have eaten enough. So it's really something that is quite a dangerous situation for lion cubs. And then eventually they wean completely off of mother's milk, and then they only eat red meat and drink normal water. But that does take quite a few months.
Yeah, if I copy you 5 out of 5.
Why can't I find my radio? There we go.
Michelle, do you copy me?
Darkmane Lover, if I'm not mistaken, these are 3 of the lions that have broken away from the Nkuhuma pride. I might be wrong. We haven't had a decent look at all of them yet. We've only got 3. It looks like 1 older lioness and 2 sub-adult males. And the 1 sub-adult male I did recognize. He had a little bit of scarring on his lip, right in the middle where the upper lip meets in the middle underneath the nose. He's the one that's got a little bit of a section of his lip that has been injured. It looks as though it's been bitten off, and I think I remember him being in the Nkuhuma Pride, but I might be wrong. So if anyone would like to give me confirmation on that, I would appreciate it. This lioness, her distinct features, she's got some scarring on her back left thigh. It looks a little bit like a half moon. But on her face itself, we haven't noticed any very distinct scarring. She has got not so rounded ears, though. Her ears also look a bit tattered. So I thought maybe tattered ear or nicked ear, but I'm really not 100% sure. The sub-adult male also looked to have a little bit of scarring behind one of his ears as well. Okay, so I'm going to spend a little bit more time with them, see if we can find some more distinctive features, if everybody wants to help me try and identify exactly which three these are. And in the meantime, I'll send you over to JP at Pridelands.
Welcome back to Eco Training Pridelands. We eventually had to leave Zilwini as we could no longer follow in the area where he was moving. We then decided to make a way towards one of our dams, but we had to take a few detours as there was a number of large trees which was pushed over the roads, and eventually it took us much longer to get here than anticipated. But fortunately for us, we did manage to locate on a breeding herd of buffalo. That seems to be the same breeding herd as what we had yesterday afternoon at the Ndlovu Dam, which is the other dam that we'll go and look at a little bit later on this afternoon. These animals appear very placid at the moment and relaxed, and that there's not a thing that can bother them on this planet. However, they do look so peaceful. They're also one of Africa's most dangerous mammal species. And out of all the big five animals, they are the most dangerous of all animals to hunt in Africa. And that's where the term Big Five originally comes from. And today, it's a term that gets used by photographic safari goers for describing the five animals that they have on their wish list to come and see when they're in Africa. You often hear that people also will refer to the Big Seven, and that includes cheetah as wild dog. And that's the 7 animals that everybody wants to always come and see. But for me, I definitely would love to see giraffe and zebras too when I come out on safari, because they are for me such special animals and I love them. And even the kudu, it's such a beautiful antelope to always find. Is to come back to the buffalo, we find that one of the things that not a lot of visitors to the Lowveld knows is that they quite often fall victim of bovine tuberculosis. And they started developing bovine tuberculosis many decades ago when they started being in contact with domesticated cattle at rivers and in drinking places. And very soon that disease started spreading from south to north through the Kruger National Park. Eventually most of the animals within the Kruger National Park is known to actually be infected with bovine tuberculosis. There's not much that you can do about it. We also do notice that there is a large number of private breeders that also will breed the disease-free buffalo, however incredibly expensive. One of the things that we've also noticed over the years is that the lions that will often feed on buffalo will actually contract bovine tuberculosis, and we often see some of the symptoms and signs that you might find is actually lesions and swollen nodes that you find on the lymphatic areas, and that's pretty much just underneath the armpits, which is generally an indication that they might actually have contracted this disease. It's not the only disease that buffalo is known to get. We find that in the 1890s there was a disease known as rinderpest, which swept right through Africa and decimated large numbers of animals. Interestingly enough, the spread of rinderpest through the Lowveld regions of South Africa actually diminished the number of animals in the area and eradicated fly species such as the tsetse fly, which is no longer present in this area. We ever do find that buffalo is probably one of the most resilient animals to rinderpest, and we still find them in large numbers throughout Africa. Let's sit and watch them and let's see what they're getting up to. It's such a nice sighting of just watching them being absolutely peaceful. Good Good afternoon, Poppy, and welcome to the show. And on your question, how do we separate males from females? It's actually fairly easy. If you notice that for large bulls, there will be a section where the horns meet, or which we refer to as the boss. And the scientific name for the species in the genus is Synceros, which means together horn, that reflects where the male's horns meet in the center. As mentioned a few times, that also acts as a shock absorber when they actually do make contact with one another, when they meet head on. And quite often they will meet on at speeds of approximately 20 to 25 kilometers per hour, which will increase the intensity of it, of roughly running into 50, to be equivalent to something like running into at 50 kilometers an hour into a brick wall. Then the females, the horns are slightly more separated, and then males are also larger than females, and we will also notice underneath the hind legs of a female there's udders, and then on the belly of the males you'll notice the penile sheath that breaks the outline of the belly. So those are some of the characteristics which we can use to separate them. I hope that helps for your next visit. We're going to stick around here a little bit longer and see what they get up to. And meanwhile, let's go and see what the rest of the team is up to.
We're just following the tracks of a leopardess right now. They look pretty fresh to me. I'm gonna keep following them as we bumble. I'll drive nice and slowly. Owen can give you beautiful views of our surroundings. When you find fresh tracks like this, sometimes it's important to just keep following for now and see if they end up where you want them to end up. I'm going to pull up to the side here to study the ground, and you guys can just sit for a moment and thoroughly enjoy the sounds of the bush. We're going to keep following these tracks and see if we can get lucky.
So just an update. The amount of progress that I've made with identifying this female is that I know it's definitely not purple eye. That's about as much as I can tell you. I have a suspicion that this might be necked ear, but I could be completely wrong. But what I've noticed on her left ear is she's got a perfect little nick out of her ear, and I know that necked ear does spend quite a bit of time away from the pride. But in terms of distinctive characters, other than the little nick in her ear, she's literally got one little spot on her left shoulder and a half moon on her left thigh. Her nose is completely black, so she's not a very young lioness. But her face, in terms of scarring, is actually beautiful. She doesn't have many scars on her face that we can see. She's also still got a fair amount of spots going down her belly as the tawny transitions to white. So I know that sub-adults have a lot of spots, and older females sometimes do still have faint spots, but these ones to me do look quite prominent in places. But whoever she is looking fantastic. They do look like they maybe need a meal, but it's not desperate. You can see her stomach isn't thin, you can't see her ribs. There's just a bit of a hollow in her side, and this is normal. Even for dark mane, when he's eaten enough that he looks like he's about to burst. If he lies in some positions, as full as his belly is, you'll sometimes still see that little concave section just in front of the hip. It's actually very deceiving to have a look at a lion lying down and try and tell the condition. So I'm glad we got to see her up and actually walking earlier, because that gave us a pretty good idea. She is looking lean but strong. And as much as they could eat, they don't have to eat right now. I'm sure they could go a few more days if they really had to. But she's chosen a very good position. She must have gone past Treehouse Dam just now, through that drainage line, which got those impalas all nervous. But if she carries on south, when it gets a little bit cooler, I'm sure she's going to keep going down Twin Dams Road, possibly back towards the Mulawati drainage line, possibly back towards Chitwa or Little Gowrie. On the way, she's got the drainage line and she's got Twin Dams, where there's usually always impalas, warthogs, quite a few different food sources. So she should have some good opportunity between here and there. It must make it a little bit more difficult for her not having supportive adult lions or lionesses. The sub-adults, especially at the age that they're at, can be quite clumsy when they're learning to hunt. So I actually wouldn't be surprised if she catches something on her own and then the sub-adults just come in to join her. Elizabeth, the spots will actually stay with them until they're past the sub-adult phase. So when I say the spots, I mean on a sub-adult where you can see the white on this lioness. On sub-adults and on cubs, it's almost completely spotted, and it's quite a heavy spotting all the way down the legs. You can see on her it started fading on the stomach, and that normally starts anywhere after about three or so years old. But most of the sub-adults that you will see will still have heavy spotting quite late on in their life. So you would think it would be something that's more predominant in cubs. In cubs, the spotting is actually over the entire body. So even on the tawny section, you'll see grayish spots that they have on their coats. And that will start to disappear anywhere to about a year old, normally around about there. But I mean, some of the oldest lionesses I've seen have still got spots in that transition phase between tawny and white, that little layer you can see along the side of her chest. Some lionesses never lose predominant spots there. So it really is also to do with genetics and the different prides that you're looking at. Usually though, anywhere from 2 to 3 years old, the spots will fade, and then as they get older, they'll fade more and more. Our lion will never truly lose every single spot. And I'm sure at the moment she might actually be dreaming of different things she could hunt, and I'm sure a buffalo is high up on that list. Not that she could take it down on her own, but you never know, maybe a buffalo calf. But speaking of, it sounds like JP has got some buffaloes. Let's head over and have a look.
Welcome back to Eco Training Pridelands. We still have our buffalo, and our one buffalo got even more relaxed. It just lifted its head now as if there's a vehicle that was coming in. Most of the part it was actually resting its head on that log. It looks very similar to a number of people I've seen out in the town, night in the town. Now up and focused again and looking what's going on around them. Although they don't look very aware of what's going on, they're pretty much very focused on what's going on around them. Quite often you'll also notice that they will lie looking into different directions to notice what is going on. A few of them is also lying quite often with heads directly into the wind so that they can smell what is going on. We've just been joined by a next vehicle. They might just move in front of us just to also join in a sighting. A lot of the individuals at the moment is just rechewing the food that they've eaten. And quite often when we do look at rumination, it's evident by a left and rightward movement of the jaws as if they're busy grinding the food after they regurgitated it and before they were going to swallow it. Well, first-time visitors and viewers that has never heard before about rumination and ruminants. Those are animals with 4-chambered stomachs that has a complex digestive system, and each of those individual chambers have got their own function. Finally, the lost chamber is responsible for retaining large amounts of water. I can't remember, but we actually saw this young little calf yesterday in the group. Dobby, can you remember seeing that one that's just coming in there from the back? It looks very, very young still and very unstable on the feet. That's very likely that this little guy might have actually been born somewhere yesterday. Quite often what we do find with the cows is when they do give birth is that they start falling behind the group. And we also find that eventually when they do need to move the calf, they generally move that calf in the heat of the day when predator action is on its lowest. Coming back to the rumination, we also find that ruminants are far more effective in terms of gaining the maximum amount of nutrition from their food compared to animals such as an elephant, which is a hindgut fermenter that has a fairly poor digestive system and can only absorb 40% of what they consume. We also find that some of the benefits is once that first stomach is full, you can retreat, you can go and rest up in the shade and rechew your food instead of being exposed to direct heat. We also find that other benefit from it is that you can immediately move away from a potential threat, at least with a full first of food, instead of only having a mouthful of food if you are suddenly hindered by something like a lion. We also find that there's a number of other animal species that have similar behaviors, and what we do find is with vervet monkeys as well as baboons is that they will actually first stuff their cheeks full of food and then only start eating once those cheeks is full, and that's precisely for the same reason in case that they are hindered by a predator such as a leopard that might be lurking around. Good afternoon, Madison, and welcome to the show. When we do look at ruminant dung, it's always fine-grained, but sometimes when we do look at things like kudu and we look at giraffe and other species again, which feeds on leaf material compared to those ruminants that feed on grass material, we sometimes find fine little leaf fragments in the dung. But the pellet is almost always hard and very difficult to break up because of all the moisture that's been removed before it went through the last stage of its digestive process. Generally, if we look at the dung of hindgut fermenters, such as a zebra or elephant, it's always coarse in texture and very loosely packed. But once again, there's always exceptions to the rule. And one of the species that we looked at this morning was actually a scrub hare, which has got a pellet that's very similar looking to that of an antelope, although very light in color, but it's very loosely packed. It's not hard and compact like that of a typical ruminant. And the reason why it's so fine-grained is because they feed on their food twice. Although that they are hindgut fermenters. Is one of the buffaloes that stood up, that's curling its nostrils back now and exposing its teeth. That's actually what we refer to as a phlegm grimace, and it's most likely that he's testing the reproductive status of individual females in the group by smelling urine on the ground. He's doing it again. It's not the only animal that we see doing this. We also see this very same behavior with a number of antelope species, and we also see it with both dogs and cat species as well. I've even noticed it with rhinos that do it too.
So I've temporarily left the Nkuhumas just to come and have a look at the dam quickly because it is still hot and they're very flat. I want to check if there's any news in the bush newspaper around the dam, and then I'll head back there when they start getting active again. But I just wanted to come and make sure. Oh my goodness, we've got a hornbill, possibly the dad from the nest at Twin Dams. Let's have a look. I'll turn my radio volume down as well so we don't get a fright. So I would not be surprised if this is the hornbill from the nest. Oh, and there's a dwarf mongoose as well in the road. Have a look at this. We've got two different species close together here. The hornbill, very possibly the dad, and a dwarf mongoose. And it looks like the family is actually off to the left in the grass, but they're hiding. And I think they've all got the same idea at the moment. They're all around the dam getting some snacks for the afternoon. But let's just watch this hornbill. It's sifting through some very fresh elephant dung at this point, possibly looking for insects or any food sources that it can take up and drop into the nest for the female and the babies. Nothing to report back home to the nest, I don't think. I can't see anything in its beak. Oh wait, I can. There is something in its beak. It maybe got a dung beetle. And it's gone straight up to the nest and popped it into the hole. That was amazing. We've been so lucky today with hornbills feeding their babies. I just want to watch for a little bit longer and see where it decides to go. Very interesting family interaction happening here. Not one that we get to see often. So I'm just enjoying taking it in.
Welcome back to Eco Training Pridelands. We're still with a herd of buffalo, and I just want to watch what these two guys are getting up to. It doesn't look like they really like one another. So we were just looking a few moments ago about how a bull was actually checking the reproductive status of females. And what we do find is that the bulls are sort of tolerant to lesser individuals mating with females. However, when the female is in her nearest and possibly falling in pregnant, that's only the most dominant individuals that will then mate with that female. See what these two get up to. They definitely don't like one another, and maybe there's a little bit of a disagreement that's going to follow. One of the most scariest situations where I've actually been in was actually with buffalo when we were conducting walks in the northern parts of Kruger National Park. And what happened is that they were doing research of a helicopter that morning, and by accidentally they were looking for elephants at a waterhole. And the next moment the buffalo that we were viewing got startled and came racing straight towards us. If I remember correctly, it was a herd of approximately some 80 individuals. At that stage, there was nothing else that you could do than run. You'll quite often will hear guides say that we never run in the bush. We actually do not always agree with that comment. Our general comment is stand still as a command. But if you have to move, you have to move. And in that case, there was no option other than moving. Eventually, what happened was that the pilot noticed what he did, and he came down very low over us, and we could actually feel the rotor wash kicking up from the propellers of a helicopter. They then pushed the whole herd of buffalo away from us. And we're so thankful for that pilot, because if it wasn't for that action, we might not have been here today. Quite often some of the other things that gets these buffalo startled and to trigger them to run is often when they do pick up on the scent of predators. And a few times we've actually, when viewing them, we always make sure that the breeding herd, what they are doing, and that we're not somewhere where they can be pushed towards us in case that they are trailed by lions. Because quite often when I did work on foot and on vehicle, we do find that lions will trail buffaloes, and they simply locate them by means of their smell. Roughly a month or two ago, we actually had a situation where buffalo was actually drinking at the Ndlovu Dam. And what happened over there was that they did smell a predator, and on the approach of that predator, they all bolted at speed. Good afternoon, Barbara, and welcome to the show. And with your question, does females fight with males? There's absolutely no sense to try and fight with a male because they're generally much heavier than the females are, and there's also no reason to fight with them as if they're not competing directly for anything. And in the case of males fighting, that fighting for dominance is actually to be able to mate with females that's in peak estrus. But what we do find is how dominancy work with the cows is that a female with a calf will actually automatically gain dominancy, while females that don't have calves on foot, they will be slightly lower ranking in position at that time until they actually have a calf on foot as well. That's generally those females that herd up the calves first as mothers, followed by females that are slightly lower ranking that will surround them, and eventually the bulls that will also then surround them. Sometimes they don't always surround, sometimes they simply just bolt, and I've seen actually in the past where the calf or two has actually been left behind, and those calves were then taken by lions. There's also something interesting that I read quite a few months, or probably a year or two ago, and that's actually that when it comes to males versus females, that bulls that are in small bachelor herds and on their own are 4 times more likely to be taken by predators compared to a female that's inside a breeding herd. So it does actually provide you some form of extra security by being a female with inside a big breeding herd as this. And on one of the concessions where I worked, which was a Manetsi concession, during the drought periods when there was a group of lions which was known as a mountain pride, we would actually watch them quite often when these individual buffalo would wander into the concession. We also started wondering how long would they last, and it's normally a day or two, and these lionesses would then drag them down and make a kill. At that stage, the buffalo was fairly weak and condition because of a drought condition, and we also find that quite interestingly I often used to see them eating leaves of red bush willow, although they're actually technically classed as a grazer. These two seem to be slightly more relaxed with one another's presence at the moment, and they've now started doing something totally different. Good afternoon, Bethany, and welcome to the show. And to answer your question, do they have leaders that will show them where to go? Yes, they actually do. They call them pathfinders, but it's not necessarily the dominant bulls in the group which leads them. It's actually a number of other individuals which will be responsible for leading them. And these are animals that are well experienced, and they will lead them to areas where they know that they can safely rest, where they can find water, where they can find food, as well as different nutrients and minerals which they would require at different seasons. we're sitting here, if there's any other viewers that do have questions, please feel free to ask. Questions make my life very easy, and it always guides me into the right direction of information that you would like to know. At the moment, our biggest buffalo closest to us is just standing up. We just noticed that there's an oxpecker that's landed on him. I just want to see which species it is. We're actually very lucky. It's yellow-billed oxpecker, which is the rarer of the two species. You'll notice that they've got a combination of yellow and red bills compared to the smaller red-billed oxpecker, which actually has a combination of has only a red bill. We find that they're generally a little bit darker in appearance as well. So both species do occur on buffalo. However, we find that yellow-billed oxpecker is more commonly found on buffalo. And it's also one of the calls that we focus on training guides, especially when we train them for trails guide to focus on, but also for vehicle-based, so that it makes it easier for them to locate buffalo, but in the case of trails guides, so that they can detect on the potential threat that buffalo might hold for them and the group on foot well in advance. And one of the things that I do find particularly interesting is how red-billed red-billed oxpeckers differ from yellow-billed oxpeckers. And the yellow-billed actually has a much heavier bill, and it's almost designed like a pair of pliers to yank out the tick, as it is generally larger ticks on the buffalo, compared to the red-billed oxpecker, which is comb-like structures inside the bill that's designed for combing out those ticks. I often mention what their diet includes. It also includes both earwax as well as scabs and blood, which they also include into their diet. In the meanwhile, let's go and see what Tess is up to.
Very interesting conversations happening there with JP and his buffaloes, and I know he is curious what we are getting up to. And actually, where I'm going, I've left Twin Dams and our little hornbill family we briefly drove past, and I heard from one of the other guides that the rest of the Nkahuma pride, the 3 lionesses with the 7 cubs, were somewhere along Gowrie Main towards Cheetah Cut Line, which is in front of me. So I want to go and have a look if we can find them, so that we can hopefully update you on our little family of lion cubs and see how they're doing. So I want to go there and check. If I can't find anything, I'm going to go back to the other Nkahumas and hope that they are moving a little bit, maybe getting a bit more active. It is cooling down quite nicely at the moment. So I'm just taking a nice slow drive towards the junction, and basically what we're looking for is tails flicking in the grass, ears flicking as well, any alarm calling, lion heads that are popping up in the grass as we're driving past. And mostly we're checking the shaded areas, so not the open areas of grass in the sun, but the little patches underneath the brush. Samantha, the Nkuhumas and the Talamatis do actually share a little bit of their bloodline. So they would be able to know that they are distantly related from a few generations before. But you'd probably find that they would try and avoid each other. I don't think it is very likely that lion prides will come together. They actually try and avoid each other, because you can imagine any wild animal wants to avoid as much conflict as possible. Conflict means you might get injured, and you don't want to get injured out here because it's survival of the fittest. So what they actually do is, we've noticed, as one pride is moving, the other pride will start moving as well, and they'll do circles around each other but not actually meet. I think if they were to meet, it wouldn't be absolutely terrible, but with new cubs in the pride, these lionesses in particular will be more careful. I just want to check here at the pan. I thought I saw something in the shade. Oh no, it's just a patch of sand, I think. But they do want to be more careful. Maybe if we were talking the sub-adults and those lionesses from the Talamatis and the sub-adults and those lionesses from the Nkuhumas, if they were to get together, there might be a bit of an interaction. And especially now that the Talamati sub-adult males are getting really, really big, that would definitely mean that they would be a little bit more confident than the Nkuhumas. But there are more Nkuhuma sub-adults than there are Talamati sub-adults in those two particular groups. So It would be interesting to see. I actually wouldn't mind seeing an interaction like that, but you never really want it to go south, so you don't want it to go bad, basically. Right, so I've just reached the junction. Cheetah cut line's just gone up that way, so I'm taking it slowly, just on this side of the junction, and then I'm going to go back and check the little pan at the main road down to Chitwa Dam, just to see where they might be. I'm so excited to see if we can find these cubs and give you an update. It is so thick that it's actually difficult to see. Especially here, the grass is a lot longer and there's lots of termite mounds, so it makes it quite tricky because you think you're seeing a lion's head and it's actually a termite mound or a patch of soil. But I'm not going to go too far up the hill. I'm actually just going to turn right at the top of the crest and come back again. You might actually find that, considering they were in this area and it heated up so quickly today, maybe they've moved towards Chitwa Dam, maybe they've moved up Cheetah Cut Line a bit. I haven't seen any tracks in the road, so perhaps I haven't reached the point yet. Very interesting to see what will happen. I so desperately want to get an eyes on an update, not just a track update, but actually seeing them all together. Okay, let me see if I can find them in this last little stretch before the big dip.
Welcome back to Eco Training Pridelands. We're spending quite a little bit of time this afternoon with our herd of buffalo that we've located, and we've been noticing a number of different interesting behaviors. These range from different feeding techniques, also the rumination of food, and a number of the bulls that actually had some form of a dispute with one another. However, it didn't get serious in any way. We also were discussing a number of different strategies that oxpeckers will utilize, how they can remove ticks from the coats of different animals. A few things that I do also find particularly interesting about oxpeckers is that they do provide some form of early warning to the animals as well if there is a potential predator in the area. We also find that they sometimes will actually aggravate conditions with animals by opening wounds and allowing flies to lay their eggs inside there. And in return, they'll often come back, dig out maggots, and that will keep that wound open and allowing flies to continuously lay eggs inside there. So sometimes they can be a little bit of a nuisance. However, we generally consider it as a mutualistic relationship which they have with many of the bovids. We also see that they will often pluck out the hair of animals and use that for insulation within inside their nest. And they will also use animals as mating platforms. One of the characteristics that we do find with oxpeckers is that they have two toes pointing forward and two toes pointing backward. Very unusual for a passerine bird species, which generally has three toes pointing forward and one pointing backward. And the reason, it allows them to grip more effectively on a vertical surface such as a leg of an animal, and they've got a very stiff tail which props them up against their bodies. We also find that oxpeckers is a whole nesting species, so quite often you will see them on your next safari flying out of a hollow tree trunk. In the past, I've even seen them using old drain pipes.
Lalamba and cub tracks everywhere at Quarry Pan. Everywhere. They've definitely had a drink there today. And Tessa drove this road this morning, I asked her, and she definitely drove it and there was no track. So, we're on the right path. Whether we see them or not, I'm not sure. It's very hot. We're on the right pathway, finally. We're getting there. But I'm just going to drive really slowly. We will pop into the other den site because it's completely non-invasive. You're really, really far away on the opposite side of an embankment where she normally sits. So to be honest, and our favourite spider nest. We've done this one before, but it's actually very creepy because it's a community nest. And spiders are generally not social. It's not in a spider's nature. So when you see lots of spiders like this, well, it can be not for the faint-hearted, shall we say. Utterly fascinating. You may not think this, but in that sort of core area, in the nest, there's actually all sorts of tunnels and hidey holes and homes, basically, where they can all retreat to and they can all hide. They're not in each other's faces all the time, you know. Everyone needs a little bit of space. And really, they are only the only, I believe, truly social spider in South Africa. And this really is a little community, if you like. And not only that, they do cooperate in capturing prey and taking care of the brood. It's unbelievable. So when a really large insect, let's just say a grasshopper, hops into this nest into the web, and gets stuck by accident, it's in trouble because the vibrations and the sound of the nest and the web being disturbed means that all of the spiders, a scrum of spiders, will come out to investigate. And because they are so numerous, they will win. So it's really, really fascinating to see that not all spiders are antisocial, because they do have a reputation for being incredibly antisocial animals, but these guys are not. I know it's a little bit creepy and it's not what you exactly want, but this nest consists of extremely strong and hard, almost cardboard-like silk. To us, it probably is rather flimsy, but not if you're an insect and you end up flying into this. Really large colonies of community nest spiders can actually cover an entire tree in their silk. It's amazing. It looks messy, and I guess it is messy. But it's a fantastic technique. When you're a small spider, you've maybe not got much going for you. Why don't you become social and work cooperatively? Care of the eggs is shared. Spiderling care is shared. Web maintenance is shared. Capture of prey, well, I mean, the web does that, but taking down prey. And then the food is shared. Not only that, but the defense of the nest. They actively defend it, just like the soldiers of the termites. It's very cool. There's one thing you don't want to walk into on bushwalk. That's not going to be rather pleasant. I don't actually think Kalamba and cubs have come this far down, but I am just going to check until it cools down just a little bit. Amelia, you're saying Kalamba and cubs would be a dream. Oh, I know, tell me about it. I'm just not expecting it to come that easy, that's all. We've checked around. Definitely lots of activity at Quarry Pan. You can see them walking all the way up Drakensberg to the pan. And then they go off-road. So I'm just going to check the den side, maybe visit Buffelshoek Dam, and then once it gets a little bit cooler, come back again. So let's bumble Odie. But as I mentioned, they are getting really, really mobile, and that's what you want. You want to catch them mobile together. So wish me luck. I'm a woman on a mission, and we're going to send you guys over to Tessa.
Oh, good luck, Lauren. I certainly do hope that you found Lalamba and Cubs, and it's exactly where Gert and I were looking this morning. It sounds like those tracks are exactly where we were and on top of our vehicle tracks. We've just arrived at Chitwa Dam because we wanted to come down and get an update on the little lion cubs. And just to update everybody, they have moved, but I can tell you that there was a confirmed visual of 7 cubs with the 3 lionesses. So we can all be happy and know that the little cub is back with its family. So I do want to reposition a little bit now that we're up on the dam wall. I can actually see an elephant in the distance, and I think we might only get a view of it from a bit further forward. Very exciting stuff. I've been hoping for elephants at the dam for 2 days, and now it seems we have found them. I had to come all the way to Chitwa to find them, but that's absolutely fine by me. Oh my goodness, look at him. He looks like he's had a swim. So he's on the right-hand bank at the moment, and definitely looking as though it's had a swim. Look at that line across its trunk. Oh, wow. I think on such a hot day, an elephant swimming is one of the best things that you can see. So I'm very happy that this elephant has had the chance to do that today. And I wouldn't be surprised if it gets back in just now. Oh, I could hear another one somewhere.
Yeah.
But I don't know where. On my way driving here, I did actually see some elephant tracks. Looked like a herd with some babies. Maybe they're on their way down as well. But while we sit here and watch him, let's just have a listen. There are so many birds calling. We might hear some more elephants. And just appreciate this gorgeous scenery of Chitwa Dam. So you can hear quite a few red-billed buffalo weavers, a few water thickneys, some hippos popping out of the water to breathe, and definitely the wind. I'm sure you can hear the wind. You can imagine this would be one of the most popular spots for an elephant bull like this one to come down and drink. Because being such a big dam, the water is going to be so much cleaner than a mud wallow would be. And he'll need to drink a lot of water. He's still a fairly young bull by the looks of it. But he'll still have to drink even up to 100 liters in a day. White mane elephants will rest their trunks over their tusks to just rest them, literally rest them. So you can imagine there are thousands of muscles in an elephant's trunk. They are very, very heavy, and all of that weight is pulling on the neck, it's pulling on the shoulders, and it's weighing the head down. So the easiest way to stop that and to stop it dragging on the floor and just have a bit of a break from having to tense the muscles, because an elephant can control how long its trunk is. Instead of having to tense the muscles constantly to hold the trunk off the ground to stop it from dragging, an easier option is just to drape it over a tusk, and then it just hangs in a bit of a loop.
After this, I'm going to be leaving them open up.
drop a Tata on the Compretam Tata on the level.
What I really like about this particular bull is that because he's had a swim, his tusks look extra clean and extra white in comparison to his body. His tusks are possibly a little bit short to rest his trunk over them, but I'm sure he could probably find an angle somehow where it would be comfortable enough to rest that trunk. He is actually moving off into a thicket, so I'm going to have to reposition if we want to keep watching him. I think he's decided to move a bit further from the water's edge, maybe looking for something other than grass. But before I reposition, let's just have a little look. I want to scan the banks a bit, see if there is anything else, and then I'll move around to the other side just now. This is usually the side where the crocodiles are, but I haven't seen one yet. What you can see though is quite a lot of clouds building up. Definitely some strange weather we've been having. This is possibly one of my favorite things to do, is come and sit at Chico Dam in the late afternoon as it's starting to cool off and animals are starting to move. Birds are also getting a bit more active. They need to start finding somewhere to perch for the night. And once they've found their spot, that's when they'll advertise where they'll be for the night. I'm going to reposition us a little bit and hopefully we can get another view of that elephant bull.
Oh. We are just sitting admiring the scenery right now, trying to listen for some clues that a predator might be nearby. But as it stands, it's just a beautiful chorus of the bush. The sun's starting to go down, which is making it a little bit easier on us, I must say. And it's a time that a lot of the animals will get mobile as well. So we're just going to sit here for a moment or two and admire the views. As beautiful as this is, we are going to keep bumbling to see what else we can find.
Okay, so we have managed to reposition a little bit on the dam wall. And we've got a view of him, and now I understand why he moved a little bit better, because normally the vegetation on the edge of the dam is really a lot better. But I see it now. If there's a fallen tree, there's a lot more access to some of those leaves. It looks like it's been pushed over by an elephant. But at the same time, the vegetation that grows underneath the fallen branches or underneath the fallen tree is a lot better because it's having any dead leaves and things are building up. It's a bit of a natural composting system, and so there's extra nutrients in the grass that's growing underneath that tree. And elephants are one of the only animals that are strong enough to get to it by moving branches of those trees out the way. So now I understand it a lot better. And for him, especially this time of the year, this is when a lot of elephant bulls are going into must. He is a young bull, so I can imagine he is going to have other elephants that he might have the odd fight with. And so he's going to be looking for the best nutrition possible. You might find after here, he'll go towards the clearings, where there's a lot of marula trees, looking for some marula fruits as well. He's just looking so relaxed this afternoon. Very lightly moving and waving his ears like that. He doesn't have to do very big movements because he's had a swim, so the backs of his ears are still wet. And we have actually got another elephant bull. It's down in the drainage line. It's coming up to the water, so I'm hoping that as it comes up, we're going to get it coming up over the dam wall and down towards the dam. It's just here in front of me. I'm so excited. This one's a bigger bull. So it definitely seems like we're having an elephants and lions kind of day over here at Juma. So this elephant bull will already know that there is a younger elephant bull on the other side of the dam. And it would be interesting to see if he has some form of interaction with that bull. Because the wind is blowing from the younger bull towards him, he stopped to think a little bit, just to make sure of the distance. Wow, he is beautiful in that light. Where are you going, boy? Where are you going, boy? Down and then maybe up on the other side. Giving us a bit of a challenge. Oh. Taking a detour. See, expect the unexpected, everybody. Here we go. Sophie, actually, yes, elephants do have particular trees that they prefer to eat from, and it actually depends on the time of the year. At the moment, the favorite is definitely marulas. And that's because of the fruits. The fruits are very high in vitamin C, and this is the time of year when the fruits are starting to ripen. So at the moment, definitely marulas. As the seasons change, though, you might find that they might start favoring something like knobthorns or other trees like that. But for now, definitely marula fruits. He is not sure about approaching the dam. I wonder if he can smell the other bull and has decided it's not worth it. It's very strange. Normally elephants are not really too worried about that if they're opposite sides of the dam. Unless he knows something we don't. Maybe there's a leopard in the drainage line. Maybe Tandi or Marips are here. What are you doing? My goodness. That was quite a steep bank. You had to stretch. I wonder why he's so particular about not coming over the dam wall. Oh, Anna Marie, I'm also always so happy to see elephants, especially when we're around a dam. And I think Chitto Dam is just so beautiful. Honestly, it's massive. There's so much life. And it's honestly just such a wonderful way to spend your afternoon, especially now with the golden light coming through. Look at how that grass is just illuminated at the moment. It's flooded in gold. Interesting, going to feed before he drinks. So So it looks like he's concentrating on some of the herbs underneath the brush there, possibly because it's a bit higher in nutrients. Spas, the hump on the back, I think you're talking about the one just behind the head, is actually just the shoulder blades where they meet. And it doesn't indicate anything. All elephants will have that little raised section where the shoulder blades meet. If you go further back, you'll also see a little hump just above the hips, and that's just the natural shape of the spine. An elephant's spine is slightly curved to accommodate for the heaviness of the head and the size of the body. Remember, this is the largest land mammal. So the bone structure is very thick set and a very specific design to try and make it as easy as possible to move that much weight without being able to lie down. So it's just the natural curvature of the spine. It's not as though the elephant is in bad condition. He is looking very good. You'll see an elephant that's in bad condition when you can have a look at it and clearly see the shape of every angle in the hip bone or the ribs or the shoulder blades. At this point, looking very, very healthy. Just a natural curvature. I am wondering why this bull is not feeling confident enough to come down to the water's edge. I wonder if it has something to do with the other elephants. And actually looking at it, I think the other elephant is actually quite a bit bigger. This one was deceiving us as it was walking up the side of the dam wall. It looked a lot bigger in body size. But I would say this one is early teens, where the other one is maybe closer to 20. Just very deceiving size as it was walking up a raised bank on the side. So maybe that's why it's nervous. Maybe it knows the other bull is more dominant. The other bull has actually come out into the open now as well. So we'll try and head back over to him. He is looking gorgeous in this light, especially with that combination of light grey on the top and then still very wet on the bottom half of his body. I'm making Gert do some impressive camera work here, swinging from side to side. So it is very common for us to see elephants feeding, especially just on the fringe of the dams, because there's a lot more water, the plants have a lot more nutrients, and they have a higher water content as well. So they'll be better quality. But let's just watch him for a little while and listen. There are so many sounds around us. And maybe if we're lucky, we might hear the two of them communicating with each other just now. Certainly hearing a bit of splashing from the hippos. I wonder if they're getting a bit of a boost in energy because it's cooling off so nicely. Annabelle, it is such a tranquil scene. It's definitely the best place that you could be sitting in the afternoon. I think the only thing that would make it better is if I could get a glimpse of Rolo and the new younger calf. That would make my day. But seeing elephants here, seeing the hippos, lots of birds flying through, really stunning. The gentle giant moving through ever so slowly on the fringe. Oh, I can hear a grey-headed bush shrike very far in the distance, maybe in the drainage line to the east of the dam. Okay, so I'm going to spend a little bit more time here, possibly reposition again and see if we can get a slightly different angle on what's happening here at the dam, but I'm hoping that the elephants stick around for quite a while.
Just stopping by one of the water bodies. My least favorite water body, but that's okay. Still beautiful in every way. The bird life, the smells, the sounds, the hippos, the scenery, the greenery. So we are just going to sit here and just admire the beauty of this dam. And I'm just not happy with Buffelshoek Dam right now. It's so full and so lush, but yet so quiet. It's huge. I think there's a chance it could be bigger than Gowrie Dam now. Massive water body, nowhere near as big as Chitwa. And yet, not a soul other than a handful of birds. It's starting to cool down nicely now, and this is a good thing to see if we can find Tlalamba active. And that wind, it will just not go away, I'm afraid. Which makes it quite difficult for us to hear. We also rely on our hearing out here. But I think what I am going to do is loop back now, take a different road, and end up back at Quarry Pan and see if it brings anything, any luck. I'm going to go to the end of the dam wallow and then do a U-turn. It takes a while to keep up with Tlalamba, and really when you start to know where she's moving, it's important to work the area. And we've got those tracks, but they do veer into the drainage line. We could be sitting anywhere in that drainage line. We popped our nose in earlier, but it's just so thick. Don't forget to send in your questions. I'm happy to answer anything as we bumble. Anything. The reserve will get very busy from next month. Lots of other properties will be driving it. It's not going to be the quiet reserve anymore as from the 1st. Okay. So at least if you have more vehicles driving, more eyes, more ears, I'm sure the leopard sightings will pick up. Although if the rains continue, it's going to get thicker. This is actually a really good road. That door, Owen. Give it a slam for me. Thank you. We've got a cable tied, but it's not strong enough. This is actually Hippo Pools Road, and I have to say I don't take it often, which is naughty of me. It is a beautiful road when I actually think about it. I've just been taking Goipan so often, but I've had Tingana many times on this road back in the day. Tingana loved it. I miss Tingana dearly. Ever since he sort of went nomadic, it feels a little bit different around here. Patsy, I'm not sure I could possibly answer that. I really don't. I did have them interact, goodness, with Darby when I was with Tristan. It was a really good stint. Tristan and I had a really, really good stint. I love working with Tristan. Lots of leopard, lots of great sightings, and Darby and I had Tlalamba, Tandy and Maribes all together at an impala carcass. And they interacted then, so if they do come across each other, maybe on some chemical level, and it would have to be chemical, Tandy would be aware of potential lactation or potential hormones. But as a human being, I don't think I could possibly say whether Tandy knows Tlalamba's a mum, I'm afraid. They do have separate territories, but naturally there's always an overlap. And I'm sure they come across each other. It was an incredible interaction Darby and I had. I think it was one of the best in my entire career. And possibly on a chemical level, she's aware, maybe even on a behavioral level, but I don't think Tandy would have seen the cubs if that's what you're referring to. And sadly, I don't have the answer to that. But there may be some awareness, absolutely. The interaction between Tandy and Tlalamba was just... my goodness, I'll never forget it. Tandy was the instigator. Tandy got angry. It was almost as if she was really scolding Tlalamba. Oh, I'm not happy with you here. No, this is me and Maribes, go away. And Tlalamba was pushing it. She knows it's her mom. She wrestled Maribes to the ground. Those two went tumbling into the drainage line in the Mulwanini. And Tlalamba came closer. Mom was growling. Tlalamba pounced. But really, when you look back at that clip, it wasn't an aggressive pounce. She pounced at her mom, but she didn't physically hurt her or even physically touch her. It was Tandy that was angry. And then Tlalamba just bounced away and stole the kill. She knew it was her mom. Her mom knew it was her. They're competitors now, really. But she didn't hurt her mom, and her mom didn't hurt her. It was a fascinating sighting. And it happened right... Is that a greyhorn, Owen? Because we don't normally get them. Well, we do get them, sorry, not on camera. I think Tessa also had one this morning as well. Oh, dwarf mongoose on the road. Hello, guys. It's been a while since I've had a sighting of you lot. Yes, wow. Are you coming to say hi? Okay. They're going to end up coming too close and Owen won't be able to get them because of the bonnet. There's some on the other side of the road now. Why are they all coming to the car? Guys, please don't go into the car. But yes, just to wrap up, they will absolutely interact with one another if they come across one another, but it might not be physical. It will most likely just be sort of presentation and panting and just not happy with one another, really. Oh, look what I just found on my leg. A tick. A rhino tick, and I'm not a rhino, guys, so it's not gonna latch onto me. Sometimes I feel like a rhino, but I'm not. These guys are everywhere. John, I think there's a clue in the moment. Look how active they are. It's still very much daytime. Now the sun's got a long way to go before going down. They are very much diurnal. They are strictly diurnal. You do get some organisms that are sort of not so strict. But these guys are very strict. The minute the sun starts to go down, they are 100% in their termite mounds or their burrows or their even tree cavities. 100%. They're very sort of faithful to that. They take a long time to wake up in the morning as well, because obviously sunrise, predators are still active. What are you lot doing, really? Strictly diurnal. And once, quite a bit before the sun starts setting actually, they'll be on their way to their mound. On their way to the mound. Orion, you're 13 years old and they only come in brown. There are different mongoose species, but these ones, the dwarf mongoose, are the smallest and they only come in this colour. But they're terribly cute and very fascinated with the vehicle right now. How so? You know, they habituate meerkats, especially in areas like Swallow, for example. And it's quite an easy process. It requires dedication, absolutely, but it's very possible. And, you know, they say you can do the same thing with the dwarf mongoose. It requires a consistent effort. So, for example, one person would need to spend time with the same group of dwarf mongoose every single day. But they say just like the meerkats, the dwarf mongoose would become very habituated. I really haven't had a sighting like this in so long. Are you judging my car? I know, she's falling apart. Have you seen Tlalamba? I bet you have. They are right in front of the car. Have you even got any on frame, Owen? Oh, they're right at the front of the car. Hello? I don't know why you come to the car. And now we can put you on camera. Yes, not ideal. The whole gang. It's a young one, I think, that one on the road right now. The closest relative of the hyenas, can you believe it? I love all mongoose species. Seeing a white-tailed at night can be really exciting, especially when you get a good sighting of a white-tailed mongoose. Far easier to see in winter naturally because the vegetation's not so long and thick. It gets a slender, exciting. Sightings are really exciting. We have a slender that lives outside my bedroom, and I can watch him from inside. Bandied, we do get bandied here, but they're not terribly common here, not like the Masai Mara. In the Masai Mara, you get bandied mongoose everywhere. Can you see anyone? Okay, they'll pop back out soon, I'm sure. What a lovely sighting. I'm hopefully going to be able to get them from underneath my car and then we can go back and check Quarry Pan.
So we have done a little loop and we are now back with our 3 members of the Nkuhuma Pride. And it looks as though we are still very relaxed, sleeping in the shade. The sun is dropping very quickly. It is cooling down, feels like by the minute. And you can hear there are a lot of birds around, particularly starlings and hornbills. So while we watch these little ones sleeping and occasionally lifting their head like that through the grass, sniffing the wind, let's just have a listen to all of the sounds around us and take in how beautiful that lioness is. I wonder what she's hearing or smelling. She's actually looking away from the wind at this point. Maybe she's watching that starling in the road. It's been up and down through the long grass and maybe she's watching its movements. Quite brave starlings. There seem to be a few that have been hopping in and out here. And you can hear a lot of other starlings around, so it seems to be a bit of a starling hotspot. Beautiful boy. He looks so nice and relaxed. I'm hoping we're going to get to see him moving soon as it keeps getting cooler. What a stunning evening it is. Elephants and sleeping lions. It seems to be the theme of the day, everybody. So we are back with our Nkuhumas. All 3 of them seem to be relaxing. And actually, the grass is so long we can only see this one from where we are at the moment. You can hear quite a few birds calling in the background. It's actually mostly hornbills with a few starlings. Hello, boy. Wow, he has beautiful eyes. Look at that golden light catching. My goodness. Big sigh. So at the moment it is cooling down substantially. We are very close to some pans and twin dams. And I'm wondering if sometime soon these lions are going to get up and move or whether they're going to wait for it to get dark before they go. For now, it seems like the occasional stretch is all we're getting. Olivia, yes, a male would be able to take over a pride that he was born in, but only provided he was stronger than the dominant male, who would most likely then be his father. If he was stronger than his father, he could defeat his father in a bit of a territorial battle, and then he would be able to take over the pride. It doesn't happen often, though, because you can imagine by the time these young males will have to leave the pride, Blondie and Mohawk will still be the dominant males. These ones will leave and have to move throughout the territory and only be big enough to take over a new pride or a previous pride when they're around 5 to 6 years old. That's really when they start coming into their prime. So at the moment, when you're between 2 and 3 years old, almost 3 years old here, or just over 3 years old now actually, still very young and still not experienced or big enough to be able to do that. So by the time they are ready to start taking over territories, you usually find they've had to move so far to find safe spaces to bounce between all the dominant males in the territories, because every territory is currently occupied. That is just how it works. They would have to bounce around so much that you probably find they wouldn't come back to the area where they were born in that pride. Also, you would find even if they did, the male in charge of that pride or dominant in that pride, when they get back, would most likely actually not be their fathers anymore, because through the timeline of having to wait another 2, 3, sometimes 4 years to actually be dominant enough to take over a pride, you'll find that that dominant male that was their father has moved past the prime and has been defeated by new dominant males taking over. And normally it does work a lot better if they have support. So if there's a few sub-adult males together that can grow up, form their own coalition and start taking over prides, they'll be able to do it younger, but also more successfully than just one on its own. Which is why it seems like Blondie and Mohawk may look stronger than Darkmane. Because the coalition has split, as much as they do still work together, Darkmane defends his pride on his own, as opposed to Blondie and Mohawk that defend their pride together. So it is actually quite a complex subject. It's not unheard of for males to go back to their original prides, but usually it doesn't happen due to a number of different circumstances. Davis, actually yes, so lionesses can resist a male takeover. They will fight back, especially if they have young cubs and they feel that there are enough of them to defeat and keep the males at bay. They might not be able to do it forever, but they will certainly hold it off as long as they can. And this is particularly important if lionesses have cubs that are under about a year old, but preferably even under 6 months old would be more important. And that's because any new male that takes over will kill any cubs that are not his own, and a mother's instinct is to protect their cubs at all costs. And so they can actually fight back. We have seen lionesses fight back against males. Ultimately, in the end, though, it does happen that they know the male's getting old. They know that their chances of defeating males on their own are not going to be good. And so when the time comes, they will submit to a male. If he wins dominance, they will eventually have to submit and then go straight back into estrus so that they can start reproducing. Remember, it is natural instinct for animals, no matter where they are or who they are. It is natural instinct that you want the strongest genes for your youngsters, for your babies, because the strongest genes survive. So that is the most important for them, and they will know when the time comes. They will have the instinct that will tell them that it's time to hand themselves over. Quite a tough subject, especially when you're talking about young cubs with new males coming in.
Level.
So I do want to just listen for a little bit. It sounds like we've got some unhappy ground birds in the drainage line. Some flies starting to bother him. What a perfect evening to be sitting with lions. And it's so nice for me to catch up with lions that I haven't seen in a while. Copy that, please go with position. So I'm just chatting on the radio.
Has now remained east of Weaver's Nest.
Copy that, how many vehicles on lock?
Yeah, he came from Malaysia Gowrie, the yellow guy from the east can't get us on the one station now.
Copy that, thank you. Very exciting afternoon, everybody. I have just heard that Maribs is crossing into Juma. How exciting is that? So I think what I might actually do is leave our sleepy lions and see if we can catch up with our clown Maribs and see what he's up to this evening. What do you think? I think it's a good idea. How you feel about that, Gert? It might be a good idea. Oh, maybe our lion heard the update. Definitely may have heard that update. So where we are is close to Gowrie Main Twin Dams. They're saying where Maribs is crossing into Juma is closer to Gowrie Main Weaver's Nest, which is actually the next road west from here. So it's actually not that far from where we are at the moment. So I'm going to leave sleepy lions. We can come back and check on them, and I want to go and see if we can catch up with Maribs before they lose him coming into Juma. How exciting. Wish me luck. Hopefully I find him.
No, there is a tortoise on the road. Elephant's coming, okay. I was going to move the tortoise off the road. You're not technically supposed to touch them, however, if they really are in a position where they're going to get run over, then you should assist them, and there's plenty water around right now. It's not alive. Shame. That's why it's not moving. Oh dear. Okay, well now we can drive, and let's see if we can get this Ellie. Shame. Did you see where he went? Oh, and I was busy focusing on that tortoise. Okay. Has the elephant given us a slip? Looks like he has, everybody. Would you believe that the elephant has given us a slip? I don't think we have any views of this Ellie, I'm afraid. Unfortunately, he's gone too deep. We had a Ellie for you there. Another magnificent bull. But when it's thick like this for summer, just none of these angles are working, I'm afraid. I'm going to do cheetah cut line now. I'm on cheetah cut line, our eastern boundary, just to see if Kalamba's going walkies. She loves this cut line right now. And then we're going to head to the hyena den. I'm happy I found those tracks, so really, really happy. And just to know that Tessa was there this morning, that's why you should always keep driving the same roads. Whether it is myself or Tessa, it doesn't matter. At least we have that knowledge that it was driven this morning and those tracks were not there. So it gives you a time frame, it gives you a window. But going into that drainage, oof. We checked the places that we know, but no luck. So they're obviously just flat somewhere. Atlanta Jewel. Not that I know of, but I was away for 7 weeks. And sadly, with the freelance come and go system, I have no idea if she was seen in that period of time. But since I've been here, she's not been seen, or at least I've not seen her. We were going through a period of time. That's what happens with the elephants. We normally find a herd hangs around for a while, really maximizes the area, maximizes the vegetation in the water point. You see the same ones day in, day out, and then eventually they'll move off. We were seeing Fang a lot. It was so lovely to see her, but unfortunately not this time around. But she'll be back. Elephants come and elephants go. They move great distances, and I'm sure Fang and herd will be back. Just want to check this junction. Negative. A white mane, I literally just said I was going to the hyena den, so yes, I am going to the hyena den. Don't think our director heard that, but yes, I was just checking cheetah cut line. Gory Pad is right next to cheetah cut line. There's really a small sort of distance between them. So I just thought Kalamba might be hanging out. And I'm going to come back to this area in the morning and really, really work it. As long as she comes out of that drainage system, we can see her. But really, it only is the brave that will attempt that drainage system. Wendy says no. Computer says no. Okay, we're now going to reroute. GPS is telling us to reroute for sunset. Elephant tracks, and more elephant tracks. The elephants have definitely been busy on cheetah cut line. This is a really good time to go to the den. No, it's nice and cool, it's not cold. That bump's a new one. Kat said to me yesterday, you know you've been here too long when you know every single bump. You stop before you even realise what you're doing. I said, yes, that's me. Okay, got some leopard tracks. So I'm going to jump out and have a look at them. But I believe JP has a beautiful sunset for you all.
Welcome back to Eco Training Pridelands, and we decided that we're going to do one last little segment before we're ready to return back to camp. We're just busy losing our sun, so we're just going to sit and watch the sun as it sets and listen to the different sounds in the background. Some of the sounds that you might hear outside of a southern grey-headed sparrow and some red-billed buffalo weavers. Good afternoon, Evans. And yes, there's a few things that beat African sunset. I just love watching them. Thank you, Megan. And yes, luckily the clouds as well as the sun is playing very well together. And Darby is doing his very best to get us the most beautiful shots of his camera. Well, we're going to start slowly heading back, seeing that we've now lost light. And we're going to wish you all a wonderful evening. But in the meanwhile, let's go and see what Tess is up to.
Thank you so much, JP. I'm hoping that it is going to continue being a very successful evening. So I'm actually sitting with a herd of impalas. Marips is here in the area. We cannot see him at the moment, but there are two vehicles, myself and another game viewer, that are busy trying to find him again somewhere in this long grass. And I have a feeling that in typical Marips fashion, he is hiding somewhere very close to these impalas, because this is exactly where he was coming to from Gowrie, Maine. So I'm really hoping that we do get to see him. So we're using the opportunity while we are watching these impalas to scan through the bushes, to listen, and to check for any little flicks of movement, because in typical Marips fashion, he's probably being a clown behind one of these bushes somewhere, getting ready to stalk. I can hear some unhappy ground birds. James Richard, I'm so ready to give you your leopard fix. I can't wait to show you my ribs. Hopefully I get to find him. I do want to go and investigate that alarm call from those ground birds. The impalas are looking very relaxed, which is pretty normal. There's a stump there, everybody. Maybe don't drive over that. Oof, but the grass is so long, so we're trying to maneuver as best as we can without damaging the vehicle or the environment. So I'm just taking it slow as we go through the grass, and as I get spiders all over myself, my favorite. But I can hear.
Yeah, just thought it was mobile kind of.
Okay, so this is Elias giving an update of where he last had him, which is here. As we pulled in. Oh, hello, whiteberry bush. So, it seems as though Maribs was actually starting to move just a little bit towards possibly Twin Dams, which is where we just were with the lions, which is quite crazy. We're doing a bit of a loop, but I do just want to go a little bit further in here just to see if we can figure out what those ground birds were alarming at. There are so many big marula trees, big apple leaf trees, fallen trees. So I'm just taking it slow and scanning. We are still very close to the impala herd. So, worthwhile having a look as we go. But I'm on now. Elias has just come through. He followed Maribs. And he's come through here, so I actually don't feel bad off-roading here to look at those birds if I can find them. I do want to stop here and listen. So it's good to stop every few minutes just to have a listen in case there are more birds alarm calling. It sounded like they were alarm calling from here, which makes sense because there's a termite mound. There's some nice thick cover. So I'm just going to keep listening for now. Oh, it would be so exciting to find Maribs. I haven't seen him in almost a month. So those birds I can hear sound like maybe a little bit closer to the boundary, possibly a little bit further east, a little bit more towards Twin Dams. So I wonder if he's done a loop back towards the boundary or if he might be still somewhere close to those impalas. I can actually hear the other vehicle, so I'm not far from them at all. And they've just arrived towards the hyena den in Twin Dams, which is the hyena den is that way. You can just see my hand. The hyena den is that way. Twin Dams is this way. So we're very close in the little triangular block between the boundary, Twin Dams, Weaver's Nest Road, and the drainage line next to where Ribbonsden site is. Oh, this is so exciting. Anderson, usually no. Birds will have an alarm call. That is universal. So I think the only exception to that rule would maybe be something like a fork-tailed drongo, which is an excellent mimic. And it is capable of mimicking over 50 different bird species and some mammal species. So that alarm call will change depending on the species it is with. But for most birds, things like francolins, spurfowls, their alarm call will stay the same no matter what the danger is, whether it's a human or something scaring them in the grass, or a snake or a leopard. It will all be the same. The behavior will differ, but the call itself will be the same. Oh, this is so exciting. I hope we find him. I wonder if he's learnt the Tundi slip from his mom. It certainly seems like it today. Another game of patience. I'm definitely hearing more calls towards Twin Dams than towards the impalas, but at the same time, if he's stalking, nothing will know that he's there. So I think what I might actually do, I'm going to turn around and go back on my same tracks that I came in on, check on that herd of impalas, and then head back to the boundary. Okay, so I'm just starting to turn around. make sure my radio volume is up so Elias can get hold of me if he finds him, and I can get hold of him if I find him. And I want to turn and go back on my same set of tracks that I came in on, just to check those impalas and then head back towards the boundary. Elias has gone to Twin Dams and he's going to be working back this way, and I'll work back towards him. And I'm sure we will meet somewhere in the middle. So I'm just turning at the moment. Oh, this is so exciting. I really hope we see my ribs. Some leopard action. Especially my ribs. My favorite boy. Ooh. Bump coming fat. Go. You can see how dense it is in here, so it's an excellent place for him to be hiding. To put it into perspective, if he was sitting right next to me in one of these thickets, I would have absolutely no idea unless I saw or heard him moving. If he was sitting still, the chance of me actually seeing him in the thicket is very small, because the grass, some of it is almost as tall as me, and the thickness of the bush, it's very lush, it's very, very, very thick at the moment. It means it's going to be more difficult. Oh, this is so exciting. I love a leopard search. Love a leopard search. Okay, the impalas are still here, so let's stop here and have a look. I'm hearing birds alarming closer to the boundary again. The impalas look quite relaxed. I'm definitely hearing more calls from the boundary. I wonder if I shouldn't go back there. I think I'm going to the impalas are looking very relaxed. I want to go and check the boundary and see if he's come back towards that side and maybe moving back towards Little Gowrie. How exciting! I love a leopard search.
OD just wants to check something, everybody. Sometimes the cameraman just see, and it's always just worth a look. Always, always, always. Even if it's just a log or a stump or, you know. And I do have bad news. We found Kalamba's tracks with cubs going into Torchwood. I followed a little bit illegally. Nothing. No worries, OD, it's always worth a check. And I just walked in because I wanted to see where they go, and they go right in at Pipe Road. So she obviously cuts off the road that I had her on, goes through the block, and anyway, she'll come back. She's probably just going for a little walk. Never mind. I doubt she'll go deep into Torchwood. But I think we'll check back there tomorrow morning and see. But now we are on our way to the hyena den, Whitemane. I have heard on the radio that there are no adults there, only my pin pan, which is not good for us. But let's check. Situations out here, especially the hyena den, can change very, very quickly. But I just want to get there now. The sunset's not really been so much of a sunset. I have a funny feeling it's still very, very bright, but I have a funny feeling as that sun really starts to go down, it's going to become very dramatic. I'll ask Elias if he's still there. Elias, come in.
I'm standing by.
Elias, are you still at the Misikaya?
You can make your way in. It's just playful now, but yeah, it's a good fight, so you can make your way in.
Copy? It's a good sighting. I just hope that means that there are adults.
I'm going to check the fire break for them.
Sorry, FC, I was on the radio there. You did try to talk to me. Helly Bloom, I am not entirely sure we're ever going to get that. My goodness, I've had it once and it wasn't the entire clan. But I would love that. That would be my dream come true. I just want to check something. If the entire clan were together. Really, I'd love it. They are a clan. They are one social unit. It's just there's all sorts of complexities in between. All sorts of hierarchies and relationships and all sorts. But there are, as I mentioned at the start of Drive, there absolutely are some mysteries that I still want to solve. And there's Tessa. I had no idea where she was. I don't know if they can see this, but I'm going to give them a big wave. Okay, Misikaya, here we come. The home of the Misi. Owen, can you give that door a big, big slam before we go into a side-in? Thank you. What would I do without my cameraman? But if there are no adults there, we will leave. Other vehicles don't. It's not actually the entire policy throughout. It's a policy that WildEarth follow. So let's just assess the situation. I just feel these Impala look really alert. Not one of them have got their head down. No alarm calls, but it could just be a hyena walking past. I think they're quite used to the hyenas now, because the hyena den is right here. No, they're fine. Hi, Elias. How are you? Hey, how you doing?
Grass is crazy, eh?
Crazy.
You live 2 meters away. You can't.
Crazy. Oh my goodness. Okay.
But he was moving this way, then he veered a little bit. So, but the behavior of these Mantuans, eh?
Mantuan.
I think he passed through them.
No adults, only Mantuan.
On Mantuan.
Oh, okay, that's not good. Apparently Mareebs is here somewhere.
Is it? Did you hear some signs, eh?
No, they're all searching for him on the fire break, so maybe, I don't know, maybe you'll get lucky.
We'll circle around.
Okay. Thank you guys. Have a good drive. Bye. Okay. Mantuan means cubs or young ones. So that doesn't sound too good for us, I'm afraid. But we'll go and check. Like I said, it's always a timing thing. Normally I can smell them by this point. There's an adult here. Susan, you are, I think, is still alive. I didn't catch who. Hello, what are you all doing out of the den? Say a quick hello. Where's the adults? Uh-huh. I can't copy you, FC. It's very mumbly and Twiglet. I'm really not sure, Susan. I really don't know. I felt that I left for quite a large length of time, and in that time frame, I don't think that the story was regularly followed up on, and I really don't know. I can't see any sign of mum or dad whenever I go into the Mowati, which also makes me think that have they all moved? Because that is their territory, and I do know most of the spots that they sit on along that embankment and in the jackalberries. Can't see any sign of any spotted eagle owl in the area at all. So was there a threat and they all just shifted? Because Twiglet was getting bigger when I left. But I don't know, Susan. I really don't know. I look every night, because at least if I find one of the adults at night time, then that gives me a bit of an indication for the next skin day. But sadly, I really don't know. Devastating. It was hard coming back after 7 weeks and trying to piece all the pieces of the puzzle together again. Okay, this is sort of their sleeping. Ribbon loves to sleep here. They all love to go into that drainage, which, believe it or not, is accessible. It's just semi-hairy, if that makes sense. But this is all their sleeping spots during the day. I know where they all sleep. But sadly, as you saw, there are no adults. Which is unfortunate. We were all hoping for our communal Dane sighting. They must be up to something, that's for sure, if they're not here. Ribbon's not here. My goodness. Is that belly emptied already? Okay, we're just going to get out of the area now and then make a new plan. We obviously don't hang around Dane sites. So as I bumble onwards, I'm going to sit for a moment or two and try to make a new plan.
Okay, so I have switched areas a little bit to extend my search for my reefs. I'm now going through the drainage line on Weaver's Nest. I'm going a little bit further north of the drainage line, and I'm going to check all the way back down towards Twin Dams and have a look if he's maybe come over the drainage line. So that's the plan of action. The nice thing is we are still in the same areas than kurumas, so if we can't find them, we can always go back and check on them as well. But I figured elephant carcass is a good road to check. It's one of my favorites, and it's where I would go if I was Mareebs. So maybe I'll get lucky. Maybe. Turning into an absolutely gorgeous evening. The breeze has almost died altogether, and the golden light is just finishing off with filtering through and dropping very quickly. So we're now driving literally just on the edge of the drainage line. Drainage line is 7 meters to my right over here. Right there. So when I get about halfway, I'm going to stop and just listen, just in case there is any sounds. So far we haven't heard any more alarm calls from any of the ground birds. Just the normal everyday calls. To see you, Mareebs. He likes to make us work for it. Goodness gracious, I'm hearing some birds in front of me. That might be worthwhile checking as well. Oh, come on, Mareebs. So I'm currently slowly working my way back towards the area of Twin Dams within Kahuma's Word, just north on that road towards Chelapan. And I've actually chosen to do Elephant Carcass, so this is the drainage line that you can see where the thicket starts. And the reason I've done this particular route to get back there is because Mareebs was coming this way when Elias lost him. So, I'm wondering if he's come to the drainage line. I did hear some birds alarm calling, so I do want to just keep listening while I'm here in case we hear it again. And that might tell us that he's somewhere in the drainage line. So those are not alarm calls, that's just arrow-marked babblers being their usual chatty selves. I'm not hearing any more alarm calls here. There are quite a lot of really beautiful bird calls at the moment. But none of them are telling me that Mareebs might be here. He's pulled a tunny an auntie slip, no, a tundi slip. Tunny is Afrikaans for auntie. I heard something move in the drainage line there. Oh, this is so exciting. It's like finding a needle in a haystack when the haystack might not exist. That's how rare it is. It's like liquid gold, everybody. Trying to find liquid gold here. The most difficult animal to track and the most difficult to keep up with sometimes. Okay, I'm not hearing anything else that will tell me that he's here. So I am going to keep going. Elizabeth, I would also love it if Mareebs came out and visited for a little bit. I haven't seen him since my stint in December, when he was still with Tundi at the junction of Chitakatlan, Gowrie, Main, and down towards Chitwa Dam. And he was stalking some impalas. They were having a bit of a staring contest. I will never forget it. They were looking at each other and neither one wanted to blink. He was on the termite mound, impala rams behind him. And they were having a full-on stare down. Ah, he's such an entertaining leopard with so much character. It is nice to know that he is becoming a little bit more independent. I know the last few times he's been seen, he's been on his own, which is great news. But I'm wondering where old girl Tundi has gone. I wonder if she's still around as well, if she's in this area. Maybe he's following her tracks or scent. Or maybe he's decided to venture out a little bit out of his comfort zone. We have seen Tundi quite a few times on Pangolin Track, which is very close to where the Kahumas are. So I'm wondering if he's not coming towards this area of the Mulawati, which actually runs in front of me now going up. Maybe he's coming back in here to do some hunting. There were those impalas very close to the boundary, but it is also likely that maybe he didn't want to go for a big impala on his own. Gary, a male leopard can become fully independent from about 1.5 years old. Normally the average is about 2 years old, which is pretty much now for Mareebs. He's slightly younger than Shasha, and he should be becoming independent from now. He should be moving out of the area or finding his own space, and you'll find Tundi will stay here. I'm not sure if she'll have any more cubs. She is an old girl now. She's 15 already. But yes, he should be starting to become independent. From 2 years old, a male leopard should be more than happy to go off on his own. So I'm sure Marius is working his way towards that slowly. It'd be lovely to see him just walking along the road. I'd love to see how big he's gotten. I know when I compared his size from September, he was Juma with Ali actually, and actually we were in Torchwood, we were near First Rock. When I compared his size from September to December, there was a massive size difference. He'd all of a sudden started filling out by the time I saw him in December, and I'm sure he's just kept filling out until now. I know it hasn't been that long, but especially when young males start to become independent, when they get to this age of 2 years old, really and pick up. And from there they will end up getting a lot bigger and a lot wider. So it really is quite wonderful. I'm hoping we get to see him picking up in size soon. But I just want to go down and check some of the drainage line quickly. Just see if we can find any tracks of him coming towards the Mulawati. We're now approaching Spaghetti Junction. Alright, let me see what I can find in the Mulawati, and I will send you over to Lauren, who has caught up with some lions.
Well, as you know, we had no luck at the hyena den. And we've now bumped into the Nkohumas, who seem to be getting a lot more mobile. Well, they were all standing up, sorry. I've just put my binos on and realised they're not anymore. It's so difficult without a monitor. So we are just going to get a tad closer, but it's reaching this beautiful, beautiful time of night where they cast us. I wouldn't even call it golden right now. It's almost like a real yellow glow across the landscape. It's stunning. And it's amazing, we're not far away from the hyena den, and we're also really not far away from where Tessa is checking for Maribs. Everything seems to be happening in this small area. Hello guys. I'm just going to pull over to the side so that if they do decide to get mobile south, we are not in their way. You're a lot more awake and visible than you were this morning, that's for sure. Wouldn't it be great if they started contact calling? Heidi, I know. I didn't quite realize they were on Twin Dams. Either that or they have moved. But I was on my way to see them anyway, and I'm overjoyed. Finding them this morning was so magical. They're interested, they're hungry. Could see that this morning. Not really any full bellies. Martin prides do separate, absolutely. It's not possible to always really stay together. Long periods, possibly not so much. But they will separate, and lionesses will also sometimes go off on their own. And especially when they're sort of getting ready to den, because they've got to keep their cubs stashed away. So it's common, but I'm really hoping that they'll start contact calling and we can get that beautiful sounds. Oh! What is going on, you two? My goodness, that I don't believe was the real deal. I think that's just a naughty young boy, shall we say. Clearly attracted by Saint. Biology taking over there, but I don't think in any way, shape, or form that was the real deal. Now, Ridge Nose was the first to have a litter in 2019, and she had 2 boys. And I know that she lost one. That was very sad. We got news of that last year. And I'm just wondering, is this Ridge Nose's other son? Or have I got that wrong? I'll wait for you guys to clarify. Atlanta Joe, you're saying golden lions. Absolutely magic. I know. I just want to quickly just give you a view of the skyline, OD, because look at the light. This is where this color is coming from. Isn't it beautiful? That's where this golden, rich color is just casting its glow, and when it touches lions, whew. Now, I have to say, it's been a bit frustrating following Tlalamba and not really getting to see her, but it's also, I feel satisfied that I got onto the tracks. And although it's a bit of a bummer, shall we say, that she's crossed into Torchwood, she'll be back 100%. We just now we need to know where to look, and we do know where to look. So at least that's a good thing. And the fact that our Nkohumas are back in town, well, I am not complaining. Okay, Shreyas, you're saying it's Purple Eyes Son. Okay, thank you. I haven't seen these boys in a long time. Thank you so much. Purple Eye was the 3rd in line to have cubs. It went from Ridge Nose at about May 2019. Then it went Amber Eyes. There are 4. That was the beginning of July 2019. Then it went Purple Eye, and she had 3. And that was in about August 2019, give or take. And the last of that sort of bout in 2019 was Chella, who's named after Chella Pan. And she had 4. Okay, thank you, Shreyas. My goodness, he's getting huge. And he is 2 and a bit now, 2.5. Picky, you're right. That's exactly what I'm thinking. These boys have gotten so big. I did actually have Reginald's son on Chitwa one day, and yes, he is a lot bigger now that I think about it. But you're right, so big. And it's actually quite special for me because I saw them as cubs. I saw these boys. I remember Purple Eyes Denside. I remember seeing them. I remember spending so much time with the Nkohuma cubs, this lot, this generation from 2019. They've suffered loss, absolutely. But I just remember all that magic, and it really was magic. Davi and I actually work for WWF. We're sort of partners with them, and they actually told us, when you're talking about the animal kingdom, try not to use the word magic, because it's not magic. is not an illusion, or is not a trick, or is not anything sort of human related. It is just the natural world, and we should appreciate its beauty, but it's not magic. And I completely see where they're going with that. I do. But I also believe magic is everywhere. And it's a word that should be used for the animal kingdom, because everything is magical. And when you start to see it as magical, you start to fall in love with it a lot more. And it goes back to that quote that I love so much from, I think it is Alice in Wonderland. Those who don't believe in magic will never find it. You've got to look everywhere and see the magic that is the real world. But I do understand where they were coming from, and I can absolutely see both sides of the coin. Oh, look at this. I'm so glad I bumped into these guys, especially in the golden light. So this is our night maid, and we're going to stick with them a little bit longer. Our lions are starting to get active, so we may need to follow them. But look at that sky. I can't stop looking at it, Owen. I'm going to take a photo on my phone. Nope, doesn't do justice at all. I can still see the lions. We've still got visuals, so we're just going to watch them for a moment or two in this beautiful light. Isn't it just stunning, watching golden lions by the golden light?
Okay, so we are just driving back along Weaver's Nest Road, still looking for my reaps, and we've just heard something behind us, so we just want to reverse a little bit and just see what we might find. The light is so unusual. I'm struggling to see a bit because of it. Actually, we've not had an evening like this before, where we're normally using the spotlight by this time, and there's this very strange golden reddish light, and then very grey in the periphery. And it, unfortunately, the camera just doesn't do it enough justice. If you can take that color that you can see, that orangey gold, and you can magnify that by 1,000,000, you'll be seeing a fraction of the color that we are seeing at the moment. This is the most unbelievable sky I've ever seen. It's the weirdest light I've ever encountered. Maybe that's why it's been such a lucky day. The animals knew there was a spectacular sunset coming. Right, I'm not hearing anything. Right, I'm going to carry on. Maybe we'll be lucky and bump into my ribs somewhere on the way back towards quarantine. It's been such an unusual evening. This color is so unusual. Honestly, it's... I really can't believe it. I almost feel like my lights spoil it for my eyes. I'm going to take it in with a bare eye. Our impalas are still very happily munching away on some grass in the same place where we lost my ribs. And it looks as though everybody is nice and relaxed, so I'm not going to spend too much time there. I'd rather keep going to see if we can bump into him. Maybe he's still moving. Excuse me, I've got a few allergies today, it seems. Goodness, I've had a bit of a rough week, I'd say. Tick bite fever and then very bad allergies, and now it seems my allergies cleared and then came back again promptly just to remind me where I am. Hello, Scrub Hair. I'm going to turn my lights off for you. It's a very nervous looking Scrub Hair in the road, and understandably so. It's the perfect time of day where all the predators are moving. I'm going to let the scrub here carry on its way and get safely out the road, and we'll head over to Lauren, who's absorbing that last little bit of our beautiful sunset.
We are just following the lions. They're moving north, which is interesting. Now, I don't know if this is Cella. I think it might be Cella. And it looked like her, which is wonderful news. I had such wonderful sightings of her. I'm just driving really slowly, I can see them. There's still so much light. I think we're in infrared now, but there's still so much ambient light. I don't need a spotlight or anything like that. It's amazing. Okay, they're mobile. They're mobile north. Great news, because if they went further south, they would have reached Gowrie, Maine. Okay, let's just creep a little bit forward. I really would love to hear them contact call before the end of the evening. I knew this sunset would be spectacular. Actually jaw-dropping. Magical. What do you think about that debate? I don't know, share your thoughts. I love hearing other perspectives. Now, if they do go off-road, I absolutely won't follow. But if they stick on the road, we'll follow. See where they're heading. They're listening, they're hungry. Is this what lions do? They stop on a road, and depending on what they hear or smell, determines which way they're going to go, really. Anna Marie, it was incredible in real life. Really, really incredible. I knew it. I knew we were coming. And if you think about it, let me just check my phone. Okay, it's 7:20. And the sun's only just gone down. That's amazing. We've only just gone into IR. That's truly, truly wonderful. That's summer for you. I can't see anything, guys, without a monitor. So if anything is happening, you can just let me know. But yeah, it's amazing. We've had lots of ambient light until very late. Okay, I'm just going to pull up to the side so I can keep... Is this one drinking? I don't actually know what it's drinking. Thanks, Owen. Oh, there's a little puddle there. They're still on Twin Dams Road. We're actually literally at Spaghetti. We're literally at Chelapan. I'm pretty sure that's Chela. They might be on Damcam later. If they continue their trajectory, it takes you straight to Damcam. Just gonna get a little bit closer. Okay, ever so slowly I am going to follow these lions for a little bit. I'm very intrigued to see which way they go.
Oh, lucky, lucky, lucky. Some lions on the move. So I'm actually on the move as well, and the reason I'm driving and not stopping just to have a look at the view is because we had a hyena and we're trying to figure out what on earth it is following, and it was on this road. So it was a very brief view, but we do want to figure out what might be ahead of us. There are some tracks in the road of other hyenas as well, so it's definitely more worthwhile to be driving and searching, especially approaching this area close to Treehouse Dam and quarantine, than it is to be sitting and listening, because we need to cover some distance. So we're just scanning all of the big open areas as we go, all of the dips as well, and just taking advantage of a little bit of time when we have it to move and search, especially this perfect time of the evening, because it's not often we get it, that it's this color of light where you can still see with the naked eye. And so the predators will be taking advantage of that right now. But the animals will still be able to see shapes, but not very definitively. It's a perfect time to be hunting. I think that was a spider. It disappeared. Okay, so I'm now in Philemon's Dip. And I have a feeling possibly they might have been attracted by a leopard, because we have been seeing tracks of a male leopard, and I was thinking maybe it's Molwati, which is why we haven't seen him. but definitely worth checking. Definitely worth checking. Oh, I just got a grasshopper to the face, everybody. That was quite painful. Come on, hyenas, what are you following? It's part of bush living, insects to the face. It's my third one for the day. Third one for the afternoon, actually. But I'm hoping that as we get up here onto quarantine, we might be able to figure out what these hyenas have been walking after. Hopefully I can give you an update later.
Because I have to put my foot down just a little bit in order to get up the ditch. Now continuing north. Fascinating. I still didn't get confirmation if it was Cella or not, but if it is, that's really truly wonderful. I didn't see. Ah, Shreyas, thank you. Thank you so much. It is. Yes. That face. I could not forget that face. So, of course, Purple Eye, Cella, and Sun. Okay, there they are. I definitely know the Incohuma Pride better than I know the Talamati Pride, for sure. I've gotten to know the Talamati Pride extremely well. But definitely the Incohuma Pride I have a more sort of intimate and in-depth knowledge with. Didn't catch that name, but yes, what a wonderful drive. Lions, Ellie's, 2 seconds of hyena cubs, and gorgeous skies. And dwarf monkeys. It was a little bit quiet on Team Wendy from, but I just had to work that area. I'll head straight there tomorrow to see if they cross back into Juma. But I also wonder, there's been a lot of lion activity on Juma, which is great. It's great news. But that it does affect our sightings of leopards 100%. And maybe Tlalamba thought, and just shifted them a little bit. Or they're just going on a bit of an exploration. It's been a while since I've followed lions at night, that's for sure. Purple Eye's definitely got a weak leg, but she is keeping up. She's a fighter. She's a survivor. And on that note, as the lions walk off, what a great drive. We've already recapped it, but some fantastic sightings along the way. And a big thank you to all of you guys for jumping on board. You are what make this what it is, really. You're bumbling with us. So please do join us tomorrow for the sunrise safari. And until then, everyone, good night.